Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the GTfusiOn 2022 Team World Championship, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, known as Gran Turismo 7. And tonight, we return from our summer break for the commencement of the second half of the championship season, which starts with round number 4, of course. And, well, we'll talk a little bit more about our venue and what exactly we are commemorating and celebrating as part of our circuit selection, our car selection in due course. But to take you through our schedule for tonight, it is the case all times in British summertime or UTC +1 for Group B's round number 4. They'll of course be our focus for tonight. The times are as follows. In just under 4 minutes time, we'll begin underway with the first of our qualifying sessions. That'll be at 6:15 this evening to kick off for qualifying run 1, followed by immediately race number 1 afterwards. We'll then be going straight into race number 2, which is preceded by its own qualifying session or qualifying 2 at approximately 6:45 this evening, and then we'll be taking a brief break approximately around 7:10 before returning at 7:20 for the run into qualifying 3 and race number 3, and then one more time we'll be going qualifying into race with qualifying 4 and race number 4 at approximately 7:45 this evening. In this case, we have an absolutely packed schedule, and in the commentary booth tonight, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing your broadcast in the English language throughout the entirety of tonight and throughout the remainder of the season in terms of Group B over the course of rounds 4, 5 and 6. Now, this broadcast is being brought to you via 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, if you are a YouTube user, you can go to youtube.com and tune in via TX141TX, alternatively Paul Walsh there, by using the YouTube search function. Alternatively, if you are more of a Twitch user, you can always go to twitch.tv/TX141 as well. And we should point out and apologise for the fact there has been a slight delay to the commencement of proceedings, and that is due to the fact we've been doing some testing in the Group B lobby off camera, and, well, there was a little bit of a mix-up with regards to some of the technical aspects, so that's why we are a couple of minutes, in fact 5 minutes behind schedule right now, but we're doing everything we can in order to be able to catch up with the schedule and make our way underway as soon as possible. So if you're wondering why we went live 5 minutes later than expected, that explains it. We are just making sure that all the technical items are in play, but hopefully we'll be able to adhere to this schedule as well as possible as time presses on. Now, as the case we said, we are covering Group B tonight, and it's only fair we introduce our pool drivers, and in this case you can see all 12 of them are here listed based on their ranking order, so that's their ELO order as seen on the right hand side, and going from top to bottom they are as follows. It is the case you'll see in the number 15 car and Zane, and he'll be representing GTB or Gran Turismo Boardless Esports, the French driver there, with our highest ELO ranking of 1267.56. Just after him in second place there, we will have with the number 31 driver from ERS, and that is Nixo09. In this case, the Polish driver there will be looking to get himself well underway and do well today. And then we do have what is driver number 3 there, the number 21 driver SOE's Matthew, representing ERS as well, the Polish driver. And then our 4th driver in the number 35 car will be ATR Zygachikau, and it will be the case the ATR driver there from Poland as well, from a neighbouring Polish team. It'll be the case he will be representing his country and Team ATR there. And then we have our 5th driver of the number 108, and that will be piloted by CBR Magma from INCR, the Italian driver there, and we know that the INCR outfit, a fantastic outfit, and they'll be doing their utmost in order to try and score some major points, and we've seen over the course of this season so far, and also of course back in 2021 when we wrapped up on Gran Turismo Sport, just how strong INCR could perform in the races. GTPL Bax will be our next driver in the 146 car, and he'll be representing ATR as well, the Polishman there, on an ELO of 1263.31, and right towards the middle of the grouping. And it is the case we do also have in the 712 car SOE's Cyber there from Premier Esports, the Frenchman there, and of course Premier Esports very recently achieving history in the form of Premier Killian, with the fact that on his debut in both the Nations and also the Manufacturers Series, it was the case absolutely having a brilliant debut and picking up the wins in both of them for Team Subaru and also for France in the Nations Series. It is the case, well, Cyber will be looking to replicate that of his fellow compatriot and teammate there, and he will be coming in with an ELO of 1262.44. We also got Cody91 1 there from TGT Fever from France in the number 22 car. And we can see there after them, it will be WSR Seb 72 representing GTBE there, the Frenchman. And it is the case highlighted in red there as our primary host for the lobby. And it is the case, you can see Nixo there highlighted in bold. In black, bold will be our secondary host if all goes wrong in terms of our hosting. And we have to switch to our backup host. We can also see, as well as the number 11 driver, the 708 and 709 drivers of 1 up Red 92 and 1 up Tom Biffioi. And it is the case, both of them there representing EXP or experience, and both of them from Italy. They'll be 2 of our lower ELO drivers. And then the last of our drivers in the number 33 car in terms of ELO ranking, but by no least means, and could be doing very well tonight, of course, and a major opportunity on the cards, is GTV's Maverick 27, I should say. I don't know where I got the 70 from. Get my numbers mixed up there, a bit of dyslexia kicking in, but it is the case there. The Gran Turismo Bordis esports driver from Canada will have it all to do, being the lower of the drivers with regards to those ELO rankings. We wish all our drivers the best of luck today in Group B. Now, of course, we go from our drivers then to what is our track. And our track is going to be the Circuit de 24 Heures du Mans, also known as the Circuit de la Sarthe, and is located, of course, near the village of Le Mans in the Pays de Loire region of France. This circuit is perhaps the most punishing one that you could ever conduct a motorsporting race around, for the simple reason it has 33 corners. It has an overall track length of 13.6 kilometers, not the longest circuit in the world, but one of the longest. And on top of that, the most punishing aspect, you could argue, is the fact that you will see your car, when you drive around here, run at full throttle for over 80% of the lap. And what that effectively means is that it is a huge test of reliability in terms of the parts that make up the car, but also we have got some huge braking zones here, particularly the run down into Mulsanne right-hander, a turn at 15, which is the case our drivers are coming down from the highest speed they'll be achieving on the circuit all the way down to some of the lowest speeds, and that really puts the brakes through the ultimate test. And of course, from our circuit map provided to us by simracingwiki.com here, it is the case that this circuit map perhaps does not do the circuit justice, just in terms of how tricky a circuit it is in order to deliver those ultimate lap times. And we'll bring you some onboards very shortly. We're qualifying one currently underway while drivers on their outlaps will be riding on board very soon. But as we do look to our rules and regulations, it is the case that in terms of car and setup, our drivers shall be driving the Toyota GR10 Hybrid, the 2021 machine. Balance of performance will be on, where our cars will be restricted to a power output of 670 brake horsepower and a weight of 1,040 kilograms. Tuning is not permitted, and drivers have the racing medium and hard compounds available. In general, mechanical damage has been set to heavy, meaning drivers must pit to repair damage. There's no magical healing of the damage set to, damage to the car over the course of the race distance. Tyre wear has been set to ×5, much like fuel depletion. And as for qualifying in the races, qualifying 1 will see our drivers have 2 laps available to set the best possible time, but all other qualifying sessions will have 1 lap available. And in the races, the grid order shall be set based on the qualifying sessions, and the race start shall be a rolling start, and it will be the case they'll be in single file formation as they make their way on around to start the race. Drivers must use both compounds for at least 1 lap in each of the races. In this case, each race is 6 laps in total. So not long races, they're effectively sprint races, but with that enforced pit stop there, and with the medium and the hard compound, we'll have to wait and see just how many laps our drivers dare to do on the medium before switching to the not as fast, but more durable hard compound tyre. But it is the case, as our drivers get ready to go, we cut over to our live pictures, and as our drivers make their way on around here, currently in this qualifying session, all of them looking to do their utmost. We do try and bring you up some of that data with regards to how our drivers are performing right now, and as we do get the data on the screen here, of course, we still do have a little bit of a handicap with regards to the information we can present to you on Gran Turismo 7 as it currently stands. We have heard rumours that there is a broadcaster mode gradually making its way to Gran Turismo 7 in the future, and of course we look forward to that coming. But right now, the one thing we look forward to is how our drivers get on here as they make their way towards the end of their outlaps right now. And whilst we do see, where's our Polish driver here, Matthias Lazajka, making his way on around, why are we celebrating the Toyota GR10? Why is it the case that we're here in Le Mans? Well, we are celebrating Toyota's recent achievements in the 24 Hours Le Mans, where they have now won it 5 times in a row, dating all the way back to 2018. It is the case 5 on the bounce for Toyota, and of course this year, earlier on this year, securing what was their 5th in a row with a 1-2 finish in what was the hypercar class with the GR10. A fantastic achievement by Toyota, and with that sort of achievement, we only want to honour it within the world of GT Fusion. But as Matthias makes his way across the timeline here, let's ride on board our driver as he takes us around for a flying lap. So as he makes his way through turn 1 completely flat out here, braking down into turn number 2, rolling the car from the left into right here, and as he comes on through the opening chicane, cuts in as much of the chicane as he dares, but now charging down the hill through 4, 5 and 6, very shortly into turn number 6 here, the left-hander rolling the car and in down to 4th gear, and now back on the throttle, fully committed, using the downforce of the car before now heading into Tetrarouge here, through the right-hander, a quick dab of the brake and stamp back on the throttle, and now he's got to take a breather whilst he makes his way down the first part of the Mulsanne straight. Now, of course, this straight used to be one extended straight, but it was found at the end with cars reaching speeds of almost up to 240 mile an hour. It was the case they had to add chicanes in order to be able to stop the cars from lifting off, given the fact they were picking up so much air underneath the car with the downforce. So we've got 2 chicanes, and as we see our driver getting ready to go on the brakes here, braking at the 100-metre wall on the left-hand side and rolling the car down to 3rd gear, down to 2nd as he transitions through it, and then upshifting early to 4th there in order to prevent wheel spin and calm the car down, and use the hybrid battery in order to be able to deliver the power he needs to now make his way down to the second part of the Mulsanne straight. And as he charged on down, it was at this point in particular that Mark Webber, so if you will remember, in the Mercedes CLK GTR machine, took flight and was in a very nasty incident which led to the introduction of those chicanes, or one of a number of incidents which led to them. But as we see here, braking down once again, braking as close as possible to the 50 board there, rolling on out in 2nd gear, up to 3rd nice and early in order to cut the wheel spin on those rear wheels, and now making his way all the way down towards Mulsanne corner. Now in the run all the way down here, keeping over to the left initially and building up the speed as much as possible, and as he makes his way in towards turn number 14 here, the right-hand king, you'll see going for the right-hander but straight lining the steering immediately under braking in order to enable the car to retard more, and as he makes his way out to 15, runs a little bit deep there, but it's okay to run deep as long as you keep 2 wheels within the curbing, and as he makes his way now down, oh indeed it's a half-second penalty, so he's gone a bit beyond the limits there, and well, it's the case Bottas is not going to be happy with that as he now makes his way down towards what is going to be Indianapolis, and as he rolls his way into the right-hander here, well, we've got a penalised lap, but Hendon Day is still going to commit to it here, braking his way on down. As he comes on in here, you'll see trail braking on in, but rolling all the way down to 2nd gear, up to 3rd early, up to 4th even earlier, and as he makes his way into Arnage corner here, the slowest corner on the circuit, a nasty right angle corner here, where you think you can go really deep into the corner, but you can't, she'll fall off circuit. He does have to take his penalty here, half a second, that'll delay the lap slightly, so we're not going to get the full flavour of the speed he'll take into the Porsche curves, but still close to that full flavour, and now heading into the latter half of the lap, where it becomes very technical as he makes his way into the Porsche curves, into the right-hander here. Will he just dab the throttle? Will he just dab the brake? Dabs the brake, then brings the throttle back in, and as he makes his way on through the long double left-hander here, completely committed, flat out, before then snapping on the brake, down to 5th gear for the right-hander, into the Corvette curves now, and as he makes his way into left here, bringing the car over to right, but snapping it to left, nice flying line there, up into 6th gear, and now only 4 more corners to the end of the lap here, making his way into the forward chicanes, turns at what are 30 through to 33, braking on down into turns 30 and 31 here, straight line between the 2 apexes in 3rd gear, down to 2nd of the final 2 corners, clambering over the apex curves, exits on out here, it's a nice lap, and as he makes his way across the timing line there, of course the penalised lap bit's a 3:22 to start off proceedings, but we've got more times to come in. We can see Rosso immediately going fast there on it's a 3:20.788, and well, what other times do we have coming here? And of course other drivers choosing to use their in-game usernames, some using their actual names, which will add a little bit of confusion with regards to who's who. I don't think we have a tool to be able to just set it so we only see usernames rather than individual nicknames, if you will. But if we are able to find it, we will implement it here. But those times continue to come in as we do see Maverick for GTBE here. He's gone P6 so far, but it's been a bit of a hash brown of a lap in terms of it's not quite worked out for Maverick, and the Canadian driver's now got to do it all again once more here. But of course, the second time you go around on the flying lap, well, you can already see that on the tyre graph in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, those tyres taking a beating, and that beating really does take away the lateral grip of the tyre, particularly that mechanical grip that you want on the latter half of the lap, as we see Seb72 here for Gran Turismo Borderless Esports as well, making his way on through, currently P9, but I think that was the side to lap, and you can see he's actually quite heavily protected the tyres on that side to lap, not taken much out of that medium compound, and therefore he's been saving it all up to this one, where of course he's probably been burning some fuel out the car as well, and now going all in here, as we see 2-second penalties there for 2 drivers in front, both for going wide at Tetrarouge corner, and therefore having those laps invalidated effectively. But as they make the way on down here, it is the case charging on through, and well, I appreciate we've had a little bit of guidance there with regards to what is our drivers' names, and we are going to get this fixed here, and there you go. And thank you to Sir Bottlejob there for advising us of how we can bring up individuals' usernames, so that way you know exactly who's in which car now, much like our driver list early on, and that avoids any confusion here. And well, Seb's still with the same name, but meanwhile we do look a little bit further up the road, and here's the case here. We can see SOE Cyber here, the Frenchman, making his way down towards the second of the Mulsanne chicanes, currently P6, 4.5 seconds off the pace set by EXP's Red 92, who's currently provisional pole, but we have still got time to go here as everybody right now flying on around. And as they make the way on through, we say hello in the YouTube chat and the Twitch chat to so many of you, including but not limited to Igor Pierzeski there, and good evening to Igor, or Igor I should actually say. We've also got Sir Bottlejob there, so hello to Sir Bottlejob helping us out on the technical side. We've also got Warnick87 saying go, go. We've also got Addy25 there. We've also got Carmine Guarino there. We're in Italian. Unfortunately, it's the case my Italian's not too good, and I do apologise for that, Carmine. We also say hello to TGTF Benny there, saying hi Paul, good luck and good life to all. Good luck to all drivers on track. Well, thank you very much, Benny, and I hope you're doing well. We also say hello there to INS_Blizzard in the Twitch chat. I hope you're doing well, Blizzard. And as we do look to what is GTPL Bax here, making his way on around the Polish driver, representing his country, of course, and also the team, I believe, representing ERS, unless I'm mistaken. It is the case heading on through at this point, and well, currently P8, and this lap's not a major improvement so far, but still got time to go as he goes underneath the GR Toyota Gazoo Racing billboard there. Quite flavourful, of course, given the fact we are celebrating Toyota Gazoo Racing. And as he makes his way out the corner here, past our marshal stand, in fact, he is up considerably here, and I'll take my words back immediately. 9.3 seconds off in his previous best, and hasn't really set an indicative lap time so far. As we also say hello there to Forzi in the YouTube chat and making his way on through it. And well, Igor there saying that it is the case that Bax representing ATR. Well, we'll get it right the second time around there. Get it right first time, the second time. And well, thank you for clarifying, Igor. I do apologise about that. But as he makes his way in to the Porsche curves here, Bax right now looking to improve, and he's going to be one of our last drivers to set their final times, as we've got times coming in right now. But this lap right now is 12 seconds faster than his previous best. It's almost heading towards a purple lap, it must be said. And as he heads on through, only 4 more corners between the Polishman and the end of this lap as he comes on down, rolling his way into the Ford chicanes. As he comes on through here, well, now he's going to have to absolutely clatter over them, or will he play it safe, given the fact he's not set a really representative time so far? Well, he goes all in. Now setting as he comes to the timeline here, what's it going to be? It's P3, a nice lap there from Bax. And have we got anybody else right now who could potentially one-up him? Well, we do have Cody91 here heading across the line. Currently P6 does not improve, so it stays where they are. Anybody else coming through? We've got CBR Magma here making his way across the line, then moves to P8. So that's a good lap, but it's not quite enough to get on those front 2 rows. Well, also have we got somebody coming through. We've also got GTVs and Zeng there getting a bit wrong. A little bit of oversteer on the exit with the power, and improves to P9, but not much further. And I believe that is it, although we have Zichikal there coming on through. And well, with everybody making their way on through and setting their laps, it is Red 92 who has taken pole position by only 1.5 tenths over Nixo, as we now go racing. But as we are about to get the rolling start procedure underway here, it is the case. It's Red 92 on pole for EXP, followed by Nix09 here for ERS, and then we do have Bax from ATR with SOE and Matthew there behind representing ERS as well. And then we have what is one up on EXP's Tom before you there, followed by Codeine making up our first 3 rows. But as they make the way down through the final corners here to the rolling start line, it's 3, 2, 1. It's lights out, and away we go for race number 1 here as they make the way away. And as they do, it is the case all of our drivers charging up towards turn number 2. I believe we do have a slight camera glitch there, which we are going to quickly fix, and there we go. And well, as they roll their way in to the chicane for the first time of asking here, all of our drivers safely making their way on through, although I can see there is the case that Nixo going a little bit hot for the ERS driver, trying to get close to Red 92 as they make the way on through. But as they roll their way into the left into right here, it is the case that Red 92 right now under a bit of pressure early on, but meanwhile a bit further back as we bring the data back up for you, of course, it is the case as they roll the way on through. No major incidents at the start here, and to be fair, that rolling start normally mitigating any major overtakes at the start of the race here at Le Mans. And now as they make their way down the Mulsanne straight for the first time of asking, this is where the battling will really start to commence, and we'll see potential fuel saving. Alternatively, our driver's looking to go in, and definitely Nixo right now wants to be at the head of this pack as he makes his way into the first of the chicanes. Backs behind from ATR, staying witness to this as they come on through, and a bit further back we do see Matthew there for ERS also getting into the hunt with EXP's Tom before here as they make the way down the second part of the straight. A bit further back we see Codeine here not quite getting the start they wanted in P6, followed by Zigchikau from ATR as they make their way down the straight once again. And meanwhile, INCR's representative of CBR Magma here, a long way back by 2.1 seconds with Anzeng P9, and also remember SOE Cyber here P10, and some of these guys would have been caught on the final chicane on the rolling start procedure, and that's why the field's opened up a little bit, but they can still potentially gain a bit later on. GTV's Maverick P11 and Seb starting last of the field in P12 as they make the way on through. But as we look from the back of the field back towards the front of the field, you can see that Nixo immediately going on the charge here. He's trying to break the toe early. He's already got that gap up to 7.5 tenths almost, and that's where the toe zone starts to fade out. But as they make the way into the Mulsanne corner for the first time, you can see behind Red 92 definitely right now not being as quick, and I think he's really heavily short shifting, to be fair, and I think what he's trying to do here is do some early fuel saving and let the guys around him who are pushing hard break away but cost themselves the fuel in the pits. Now we do know that there has to be a fuel stop here, or really a pit stop we should say, for that change of tyre, and given the amount of fuel that came out of the cars over the course of the qualifying session, we would imagine a little splash and dash of fuel may be required for some drivers who are pushing it very hard. So as a result, I think Red 92 is trying to limit the amount of fuel he's got to take in the pits, and Will Bax in return is following as well as they make the way through Arnage, and as they roll the way on out here now back up to the Porsche curves as they charge on up. But as they do, we see a little bit further back there, it is the case that Codeine getting close to Zigchikau here. They're side by side in the battle for P6 as they make the way on up, and Zigchikau will hold from that outside line, but you can see how Codeine really right now trying to put that pressure on here, and I think understandably so. He feels he's got a bit more pace at this point in the race, and everybody's starting on the medium tyre, so they will have to switch to the hard tyre when they come into the pits and do the rest of the race on the hard tyre. And of course nobody will want to cut off that medium until they have to, because it is the tyre that offers the better grip technically, and therefore the better lap time until it really falls away. And that tyre graph down the bottom left hand corner of your screen, it's recently been updated, and it's only really when we see the last 20% of that tyre left where we'll see our drivers fall away. But into the pits comes Matthew really early. No, in fact he's got damage on the car, and Magma's in as well. Magma did start on the hard tyre, so that's why Magma did not qualify as well as perhaps he could have there, but Magma has decided to go hard whereas everyone else has gone medium, and Matthew with some damage to the car. Now can we find out who he was in contact with in order to know who else has got damage on the car? Well, not at the moment, but we are seeing here GTV potentially getting ready to swap their drives around, and Zen also starting on the hard tyre as well. We thought most of our drivers have started on the medium. It seems our front runners are on the medium, but a number of our back runners are on the hard, and perhaps the reason why they didn't qualify so as well is the fact they started on that hard tyre for the qualifying session, because we've gone straight from qualifying to the race, and that would explain a lot. But as they make the way on around at this point, it is the case that Maverick doing everything right now to stay with his teammate, and to be fair, GTB in this situation can play this to their advantage, which is that they're all running together like this. They can run in the respective toe one of them. You see Maverick, they're short shifting to 7th gear really early in the RPM banding, and that means he's going to save a considerable amount of fuel down this straight as they make the way up towards the first part of Mulsanne. But we'll have to wait and see how this plays out for the GTV drivers in practice. Meanwhile, the big questions right up towards the front of the field, of course, is who is pushing hard and who's deciding to play it safe. What we can see here is the case that Red 92 in P2, he's now 2.6 seconds off of race leader Nixo 09 from ERS, and I think it is the case that Nixo really trying to deliver, and in fact he's taken a lot more out the tyre, has Nixo, compared to Red 92 on this opening stage. Is about 5% more in that tyre wear, and as a result that is going to cost him later on. But as he makes his way down towards where's the Mulsanne corner right now, Nixo definitely trying to break that gap open here. He's throwing everything in at this. Meanwhile, back here we can see that Bax, by comparison, well, it is the case, closing up to Red 92 little by little, but we are starting to see the field break on out as they make the way on down, and as they come charging on in, it is the case that Bax right now thinking, I believe, about getting a bit closer to Red 92, making the jump, and then trying to follow after the ERS lead driver. But Now that Bax is in the tyre, of course, will he decide to instead go for fuel saving here and think about the long game? That's always the big question. As meanwhile, a bit further back, we see Codeine there in P5, Cyber in P6, and then Maverick and Anzeng swapping place. Anzeng's picked up a half-second penalty, and we suspect that's a track limits on the exit of Mulsanne corner. Well, they're going to have to make the switch because Anzeng's going to fall backwards past his teammates regardless in that penalty zone coming out of Arnage as they make the way up towards Indianapolis. It is the case that Maverick at this point in time definitely now the leader GTBE driver here, and it's not quite going the way for some of GTBE as it currently stands as they roll the way on out of Indianapolis and up into Arnage now. We look further up once again and we look to Bax in particular. 1 second penalty for what is the ATR driver, and well, where has that been accrued? Well, that 1 second penalty is likely to have come from what be either Indianapolis, he's cut a curve, or alternatively at Arnage, but it's very hard to get a penalty at Arnage to be fair without losing time by default. So I think it is the case that Bax may have been a bit greedy with one of the curves at Indianapolis on the apex, and he just cost himself some time in return, and that 1 second penalty will be served later on in this lap, if not the next lap. As he makes his way on around here, we do say hello to a fan of what is ATR there, of Lucas Licha there in the YouTube chat. Hope you're doing well, Lucas. And well, it's not quite working out for Bax right now, but we'll have to wait and see how it works out for the rest of the team, particularly Zig Chikau, who's had a bit of a slow start, but we do know that Zig Chikau's a bit of an alternate strategy as they go on to another lap, and Bax here really pushing as we ride on board with the Polishman making his way in the hunt after Red 92 for that P2. Now the thing for Bax is at this point, given the fact he's got a 1 second penalty, he's got to make a decision. Does he push hard to try and pass Red 92 and therefore cost him some time before taking the penalty, which is one approach. Of course, he can't go over the top in slowing the driver down, but he can fight to cost them both time. Or does he decide just to simply stay behind, fuel save behind him, and then take that penalty, that 1 second penalty, which will be the equivalent of about 1.5 seconds given the relative speed to these machines and how much time is lost in that penalty zone. Well, as they make the way on to the Mulsanne straight here, this is a brilliant onboard perspective to give you a sense of speed that they build up in the run down towards the first Mulsanne chicane in excess of 200 miles an hour already, still building speed in the draft as well, but throwing the car into a high fuel saving mode because he's not gaining on Red 92 anymore. He's in fact now losing time, which means that he's gone to a high fuel map. We see Red 92 a half-second penalty as well, so both drivers there being caught out by the automated track stewarding limit system, and as they make the way back up to speed now, they'll both be feeling that pinch when they get to what is the exit of Arnage on this lap. But we're 3 laps in, we're almost halfway into this race now, and it is the case that Nixo up front is definitely trying to run away with proceedings as we are starting to see a bit of daylight go away. The headlights are on here in race number 1, and Nixo right now looks to be absolutely infallible, charging on through. But of course the question is, has he used more tyre and also more fuel compared to his rivals? Will we see there on the graph about 50% usage of all 4 tyres? Meanwhile, we look, and also in terms of fuel, about 50%. Behind, we can see that Red 92 on a similar amount of fuel used and a similar amount of tyre wear, although more tyre wear towards the rear of the car, interesting enough, particularly on that rear left tyre, really scrubbing off a large portion of the tyre there. And Red 92 perhaps a bit more aggressive on corner exit with power deployment. Then we come to Bax here, who has taken a bit more tyre compared to his top 2 rivals, just about 2 to 3%, but he's saved a bit more fuel by comparison as well. In fact, they're holding about 2 to 3% more fuel compared to Nixon, about 1% more than Red 92. We then look to Codeine behind, who has definitely been doing fuel and tyre saving here on that medium tyre. You can see having about 5% more fuel as they make the way on down, and as they roll the way on out and in towards Indianapolis here, is the case that Cyber, meanwhile, is on 50% fuel and has really been protecting those front tyres. The rear left is absolutely aching for Cyber, SOE Cyber, but meanwhile, it is the case, those front tyres well preserved. And then we come to our P6 driver here of Maverick from GTBE, chasing after the Premier Esports driver, and it is the case that Maverick using a lot of fuel, the most fuel used of anybody so far in all that we've gone through. And then we do have what is EXP's representative of Tom Bifoy, as we do see he's the one with the damage. So it's the case, Tom Bifoy in that contact with Matthew earlier on, which led to the two having to essentially deal with that in terms of pit stop or staying on out. Well, Tom Bifoy's decided to stay out there with that front end damage. Meanwhile, Matthew came into the pits to repair the rear of the car, but Tom Bifoy has been doing some fuel saving, but those tyres not looking good. Magma, meanwhile, from INCR, CBR Magma, right now saving a huge amount of fuel. My goodness, the man there, well, I think he's aware of the fact there might be fuel shortages around Europe right now, because it is the case. He's been saving a lot of fuel compared to everybody else, and could that cause Magma to jump up the order quite considerably later on? We'll have to wait and see. Then we do have in P9 here, Matthew right now, who's also been doing a bit of fuel saving, not as much as Magma, but good fuel saving as well, and you can see that on that hard compound tyre. And then we do have Zeb right now, WSR's Zeb, as he makes his way on through, and it is the case they're doing a lot of fuel saving, and on that medium tyre, and he's on an outlap. In fact, on that hard, he's gone to the medium here, and we'll see that crisscross later on with regards to the strategies. And Zhang on the medium now. Of course, GTV decided to start with that hard tyre compared to the medium runners up front, and he's got enough fuel to get to the end of the race. And then we see Zikchikawa here on that hard right now, not having a happy race at the moment. Is the ATR driver, and he's got it all to do towards the end of this race, if not in race number 2. But we look from the back of the field to the front of the field, and Nixo continues to fly here. And I can see Igor Piazeski there in the YouTube chat saying it is the case, he's absolutely flying, and yes, he is right now. And I think if he was flying any faster, we would see this Toyota grow wings, because the man is on a mission to break away. But the thing is, now he's starting to enter the twilight zone in terms of those tyres, because he's at the point where he's almost at the threshold where those tyres now will start to feel they're right on the limit before they wear off completely, and he's got to be careful on this lap. We suspect he's going to be coming in on this lap. If he decides to go a 5th lap, that 5th lap will be extremely on edge in terms of that tyre wear. But the thing for Nixo is he's been protecting those rear tyres a little bit more than others, and that may just help him in the long run here in terms of being able to go a 5th lap. But I suspect he'll bring it in on this one as a safety, given the fact he's giving himself a 7-second advantage. Red 92, meanwhile, in a similar situation, still got ATR's backs behind as they make their way up towards turn number 15. As they wait their way into Mulsanne at this point, things have calmed down for the time being, and we are waiting to see how it plays out with regards to those pit stops in short order. But night time has fully descended on the circuit here, and well, we can see in absolute stellar beauty here how it is the case that Overdrive's rolling the way on through, and Bax right now definitely trying to hunt down his rival, as meanwhile Codeine here in P4. It is the case, well, the Frenchman definitely delivering at the Premier Esports driver, but at the same time not quite there after the top 3 and breaking it away from Cyber. In fact, as they make the way on through here, is the case that Codeine being chased by what is Cyber there as they make the way on down the round. And Cyber is the Premier Esports representative. My apologies, they're getting mixed up on the teams. But as Cyber rolls his way on through, it is the case that we do look from our top 5 to our 6th place driver here of Maverick. And Maverick has actually been closing up to Cyber over the last couple of laps. He continues to push hard here, does Maverick, but keep in mind, he is at a fuel deficit. He has been using more fuel than the top 5, and that means he will have a longer pit stop when he comes on in, and we expect that's going to be shortly, as we see behind Tom Bifoy there with a huge 1.5 second time penalty he's just served, and that is going to be the equivalent of about 2.5 seconds by the time he gets the entry into the Porsche curves. That is going to massively hurt his race speed on this lap. But meanwhile, we look up towards our front runner here of Nixo, who's into the pits, and the ERS driver, well, he's been leading up front for a long time. He comes on in with 23% fuel left, and we'll have to wait and see who else peels on in. Well, Red 92 comes on in. What about Bax? Yes, he does. I think it is pit stop season here for our medium runners. Codeine also in, as we see him making his way down. Cyber, will they be coming in? Yes, they do. Those medium tyres can't go any further, but it's Bax and what is it, Codeine there, who've been doing the majority of the fuel saving, as Maverick makes his way on in, and he's been doing the least of it by comparison. Meanwhile, we've got Tom Bifoy coming on. Oh, goodness me, Tom Bifoy with a massive whack to the wall there into the pit lane. The XP driver is having his race go from good to bad to worse. Meanwhile, CBR Magma also coming on in here, and in fact, no, Magma going one more lap, and in fact, Magma, that 1 second penalty, well, that penalty's going to hurt, but going a little bit longer is the Italian here. And I think, to be fair, Magma may have picked quite early on. A 2-second penalty for track limits, though, quite harsh if I say so myself. But as Bax comes on through here, Magma will be coming on up to try and go hunting after the top 3. But Magma rolling on up into the braking zone here. And, well, Nixo has come out your leader with Red 92 behind, and what is ATR's Bax in at P3. And then we have Magma in the mix here, P4. Codeine P5 just ahead of what is SOE Matthew here, the ERS driver. And, well, it's the case there's pressure building here. Matthew trying to put that pressure on, having gone to that high tyre early, given the damage that was picked up early in the race. And right now, well, Cocaine's got cold, hard tyres on the car, and this is an opportunity for Matthew. If Matthew can get close enough, he can really force this P5 battle as they make their way down into the Mulsanne straight here for what is the penultimate time. And as they do, Matthew in the hunting seat here as we ride on board with the Polishman in the slipstream. drafting all the way onto the back of the Frenchman here and getting closer and closer. Will he peel out? Will he wait? He's going to have a look for it here. Looks up the inside. On the brakes they go, but lifts out in the end, decides no, now's not the time. We've still got 2 more segments of the straight. There's no point going early as they make the way on through, but as they do, it is the case, charging up towards the second chicane now, and once more Matthew here will be in the tow and only 3/10 off. It is the case, we'll be gaining quite rapidly in the end, getting closer as these cars punch a lovely hole through the air, and it's the case that Matthew's in the tow as they make the way towards the braking zone. Magma's got ahead of Bax further up the road, as Stu points out, and Matthew's going to go up the inside here as they make the way into the braking zone. It's side by side into the chicane, but Matthew held at bay then. Coding this time will know that Matthew's been setting up 2 teasers, and now here comes the main event, because the next one's critical. If he can get the move done in the run down to Mulsanne and get the power down, he may just be able to break away in the run to Indianapolis. They're side by side in this battle for P5, heading up towards the right hand. You can see the line astern behind of what is GTfusiOn Seb, followed by Cyber, and Matthew gets ahead, but you can see there Coding just backing off as they made the way into the braking zone. I think here the Frenchman knows to come on back in the tow up towards Indianapolis, but the thing for Matthew now is he can really pin that car to the inside of the road and make Coding have to do the biggest gamble, which is going round the outside into Indianapolis. And the thing with that is, of course, if you're going to go round the outside, you've got to be bold, you've got to be brave. But as they make the way up towards the braking zone here, well, Matthew stays ahead for now. Coding not going for the move, and in fact staying right behind, and I think waiting for the next lap to try and set this one up. But meanwhile, we look back up to our top 3, and we can see here it's the case that Magma serving that penalty, and Bax behind. Well, Magma's going to drop him behind Bax, but once again, Magma's right there with only a second gap between them or so. Now, they will have the run to the Porsche curves where Magma will drop a bit further back, so it's going to be about 1.5 seconds in actuality. But the thing right now for what is the ATR driver here is Bax is not going to have any peace. They are going to have to really push it for the final lap, because otherwise Magma is going to be on a charge here. And, well, those medium tyres, to be fair, I think they have had enough, and they've seen much better days. And, well, Magma at this point may be considering coming on in, given the fact those tyres are practically at their end. As he makes his way in towards the pit lane here, surely no, he stays out. Magma's going to go one more lap. Well, to be fair, he's already done the hard. He did 1 lap on the hards right at the start, and Magma at this point has jumped all the way up into P3, temporarily dropped to P4, and now he's going to go on to that final lap, and those medium tyres surely are not going to hold up for the remainder of the distance. It's another 13.5 kilometres for Magma to do on a set of medium tyres that are about to break. But meanwhile, we look back to our drivers running outside the top 6, and we can see Seb 72 here. He's got his teammate Enzeng behind, only 7/10 separating the 2 of them for GTB. And then we have the Premier Esports representative of Cyber here, SOE Cyber, in hot pursuit, making their way into the chicane. No change between these 3 for the time being. Then we have what is EXP's representative of Tom Bifoy here after that major penalty moments ago and that whack to the wall in the pits. It's not going well for the Italian driver. Meanwhile, GTV's Maverick in with engine damage. Something has gone very wrong for Maverick, and I'm hearing in my ear it's a whack to the wall at was on Arch Corner. And meanwhile, ATR's Zig Chikawa here. It's not gone well for the ATR driver down in what was last place, but will now take P11. Some damage on the front end of the front suspension of the car, front right in particular, but Zig Chikawa's going to soldier on here to the very finish. But meanwhile, speaking of soldiering on here, a bright trooper. Here's your race leader of ERS's Nixo09. Well, he may not have started necessarily on pole, but he has led this one from the run of lap number 1 all the way through the race, and, well, he has been absolutely infallible. Now, we can't sing his praises too soon, given the fact he's still got over half the lap to go, and the most technical part of the lap is still to come. But ERS's Nixo right now definitely in a world of his own. He is a shining star in the night here, and it is the case. 11 seconds clear. Red 92 right now is probably thinking, what on earth is under the hood of that Toyota in front? Well, it's the case that all equal machines, they've all been checked before they've gone racing, but it's the case that Nixo09 is just in a different world. But meanwhile, heading on down the straight here, all the way up towards what is the Mulsanne corner here, we can see Bax in P3 and Magma with a 2.5 second penalty, and I get the feeling that 2.5 second penalty has come mostly from Tetrarouge, and the car has tried to go, well, he's tried to take the car through with maximum speed like all our drivers want to, but the tyres have said no, because look at the tyre wear, particularly that rear left tyre, it's practically gone. And as he makes his way on through here, if Magma's able to hold on even to finish P5 5 here. This will be a huge achievement given the wear on the car. You can see the fuel load as well is coming down, and look at how much he's literally siphoning with the steering wheel. And oh goodness me, it all has gone wrong for Magma coming out of Indianapolis right at the end there, and as he does, he also picks up another second penalty to compound his woes. It's all gone wrong for the INCR driver at the final hurdle, but it is the case that co-coding gains a place. So does SOE Matthew, and Matthew here is the case after that early pit stop. It's worked out very nicely for him. He's still got a driver behind him of what is their co-coding closing rapidly, but Matthew at this point, given the fact he went to those hard tyres in response to damage, it could work out well. But speaking of working out well here, there's only 4 more corners to go, and he's been absolutely flawless all the way, and I doubt he's going to make a mistake now, whereas he's got 2 corners left. He emerges on the final chicane, and here's your winner in race number 1 for Group B of round 4. It's ERS's Nix09 who takes the win by 11.5 seconds ahead of one-up Red 92 here, as the EXP representative makes his way to the line from Italy. P2 to Red 92, a solid drive from him, and then it will be 3rd place to ATR's representative of GTPL Bax. A brilliant drive from Bax there, holding off the pressure at the end. We see SOE Matthew coming to the line for ERS in P4, ahead of co-coding there in P5, and then we will have Anzang from GTBE just finishing outside the top 5 there for the French team as he makes way across the line with WSR Seb72 behind, and it's going to be SOE Cyber representing Prima Esports there in P8, followed up by EXP's one-up Tom Bifoy here in P9 as the Italian makes his way to the final couple of corners here. Not the race he's wanted, to be fair, but still plenty to take away from this one into race number 2 as he comes home P9. And then we've got a 5.5 second gap to the spun car of CBR Magma here. And look at those tyres, they're just gone, and Magma at this point just got to tiptoe to the line. In fact, he might want to reverse it across the line at this point, given that car's almost at the finish line, and well, he's going to be able to just get across before Zig Chikau arrives. But Magma in the end from the INCR finishes P10 on a very tricky strategy. ATR's Zig Chikau P11. It hasn't gone right for the Polishman. He'll bounce back in race 2, and then it will be GTV's Maverick 72, who as he comes to the line after picking up that engine damage right at the end of the race, he had to make that second pit stop. But it is the case of the GTV driver, last but not least, finishing on the lead lap here, coming on through to complete our order 12 out of 12 as he comes home in 12th place. A brilliant race from all of our drivers, but congratulations to our race winner of ERS's Nixo09 taking the win in race number 1. Brilliant race there from all of our drivers, and well, with that in mind, as we go to save the replay here, as is the GT Fusion tradition, where everyone is required to save the replay as soon as possible. It is the case we can't quite bring you those race results, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken. But what we can say is that Nixo really showing that form. But it is the case we will very shortly be making our way into the race 2 qualifying session. And remember, our drivers will only have 1 fast lap available to them in order to be able to set their qualifying time. So not 2 laps, only 1 lap. And what does that mean from the perspective of race 2? What it does mean is if our drivers want to start race 2 on the hard tyre, they have to declare it at the start of the qualifying session. They cannot, unlike in race number 1, where they had 2 laps in the qualifying session, they can't just simply go out for an initial warm-up lap and come into the pits and switch the tyres over and then go back out again to warm up the tyres. They do instead now have to commit to that tyre choice before they make their way into qualifying. So whoever starts on the hard in the race will be towards the back of the field naturally in qualifying, because they have to qualify on that hard tyre and one to be considered. But as we do see there, many of you are tuning in and enjoying things so far in terms of racing, as we also say hello in the YouTube chat to ATR QFer there, and I believe that's how we say your name. I apologise if not. And we can also see there we do have Sir Bottlejob and Lucas Bleacher there talking about the medium tyre wear and how it's good for 4 laps but not for 5. And also Lucas there thinking that Bax may have made the jump on Red 92 in terms of fuel, and it wasn't to be. And well, it is the case in the end. I think everybody universally agreeing there in the YouTube chat that it was the case that CBR Magma's strategy of trying to do what was 5 laps on a set of medium tyres, not the way to go in the end. He saved those tyres very well, it must be said, but not quite working out in the finish, and in the end spinning his way down the order. But he'll take that one away for next time. And we can also see there what is, I do believe, at TGTF's MTX54 saying nice race, and it's good to have you with us, MTX54. But as we do briefly take a breather, it is the case we will be back very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, for the build up to race number 2. As we just see the lobby close there, we'll be back in a brief moment. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to race number 2 here at Le Mans as all our drivers make the way into the newly formed lobby. And as we said, it will be another 6-lap race preceded by a 1-lap qualifying session where there will need to be that declaration of which tyre our drivers are going to go for at the very start of qualifying. So that will take away a little bit of the unknown perhaps in qualifying, but what it also means is we'll have those declared strategies and we'll have to wait and see who's going to try and cut their way up the order and what effectively be the hard to medium undercut transition versus those who will try to go charging off into distance on what will be the medium tyre at the start. But the real big name, to be fair, is ERS's Nixo09. We saw him absolutely take a dominant win in race number 1, and will he be able to do the same again in race number 2? That will be the challenge, as we do have our final driver into lobby here. But as we are waiting, it is the case we are running a little bit behind schedule, and we do apologise for that. But whilst we might be running a little bit behind, I'm sure you all agree with me here, with the racing we've had so far and still to come, it's all worth the while. And whilst Gran Turismo 7 may not be absolutely flawless with regards to its lobby and hosted system, our drivers are doing their utmost to make up for it here, and being led, of course, by what is Seb72 from GTV, who's running this lobby and indeed all the lobbies for tonight, assuming there's no technical issues on his end. But as we are waiting right now, it is the case we'll get a refresh of the lobby very shortly, as will be done by Seb, and then qualifying will kick off with the exit lap plus also the fast lap. And as our drivers get ready to go, we should make a brief clarification for those of you who were wondering. In this case, we briefly did mention that Cocodine was part of Prima Esports. We do apologise for that. That was a little bit of a mix-up. They're actually representing what is the TGT Fever team. And as our drivers make the way out for this qualifying session then, we see our first driver, one of our lead drivers to make the way out onto the circuit is SOE Matthew here, and the ERS driver charging on around as we do bring up the details once again. And as he makes his way on out here, it is a case of let's bring up that full information for you as our drivers do get set. Now, as he rolls on a way around here, it is the case that Matthew right now, much like many, all trying to deliver at that time, but let's try and find out what tyres everybody's going for. So we know that Matthew is definitely on the medium tyre. We can see that Red's also on the medium. We've got Tom Bavoy here on the medium as well, so 3 out of 3 so far on the medium. We've also got Maverick on that medium tyre, the Canadian driver, followed by what is Bax, the Polish driver here representing ATR on the medium. Cocodine as well, representing the TGT team on that medium tyre. We've also got INCR's Magma here on the medium, Zigchikau on the hard tyre. So it's the case the ATR driver here deciding to invest in the less desirable compound first and foremost, and that could be very interesting in terms of if he can out-qualify any of the medium runners, he could be a major thorn in a few medium runners' sides. We've also got SOE Cyber there for Prima Esports. He's running on the medium, followed by what is WSR's Seb72 on that medium tyre. We've also got our race winner from race 1 of Nixo09 for ERS on that medium tyre. And then Anzang deciding to start on the medium. So we've only got one hard runner, and that will be Zigchikau. Now, in theory, we would expect him to qualify at the back of the pack here. We know that the hard tyre is approximately at least 1.5 seconds slower than the medium average here at Le Mans, depending on car class. But as he makes his way around, the thing that Zigchikau will have in his favour is he can take his time with his qualifying lap. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, he doesn't need to push this qualifying lap as much as the rest of the field, because you can imagine when you've got 11 drivers all on the same compound, and I get the feeling that most of them will be aware of which compound their rivals are going to be on now. It's the case they've actually got to charge. You can see that Zigchikau here trying to burn some fuel out of the car by holding the brake on slightly along the straightway here, just to take a little bit of fuel off, just burning some fuel gradually. Of course, our drivers are not allowed to just simply have the brake fully on and hold the car in first gear anymore. That's what we used to do back in the world of Gran Turismo Sport, or it is the case, particularly in those manufacturers races back in 2019 and 2020. Everybody used to go around to the qualifying session with the car in first gear, with the brake being held on as well to burn all the fuel out the car before you did your qualifying lap. That's not the case in the GTfusiOn Team World Championship. That rule is not in effect. It is the case that our drivers are allowed to burn a little bit of fuel, but they must do it in a manner which is safe, and also it's the case they're not allowed to overextend individual lap times. And that's why you'll see the occasional little dab of the brake on, just holding the brake on there and doing what we call brake dragging, but nothing excessive like what we have seen in the past in the world of Gran Turismo. But as our drivers make the one around here, it will be the case that SOE Matthew will be our first driver to come around for a flying lap here. And, well, with the fact that Zigchikau does not have to push as hard, whereas all the medium runners do, any medium runners get their laps wrong, pick up penalties and whatnot, they will start most likely behind Zigchikau, and that will mean that he gains a natural advantage. But let's ride on board then with SOE Matthew as he takes us around for a flying lap here in this qualifying session. He's making his way out the last 2 corners there in 3rd gear. Deciding to stay in the slightly higher gear rather than 2nd gear in order to give himself better stability on corner exit. He now makes his way into the first right-hander. Turn number 1 here completely flat out. Gradually across the corner before breaking at the 2nd total board there into turn number 2, effectively the 100-metre board. Running his way through the chicane there, cutting as much as he dares and not picking up a track limits invalidation there as he makes his way through 4 into 5. It is the case heading into turn 6 now, rolling his way into the corners of the charge into Tetra. Nice and steady here, not attacking the course too hard, just giving it the right amount of beans, as we like to say, or just keeping it well within check. And through Tetra there you can see as well, not pushing it too excessively, but running at about 90%, and as a result, it won't be the fastest lap he's setting, but he's going to guarantee himself a good lap on the board, and now he can take a brief breather. That's why the hardest part's are lap done there at Tetra's corner. Now charging his way all the way down towards the first of the Mulsanne chicanes here at night time, of course. So the circuit's a bit of a different beast at night time, and the fact those brake markers you look for in daylight may not be as clearly visible. But as Matthew rolls his way through the first chicane, which is turn number 12, it is the case now, gets that hooked up very nicely and makes his way down to the 2nd chicane. And as he heads on down here, again a bit of a breather, but the thing is, in these dark conditions with the headlights on, you can't afford to be lulled into a full sense of security and almost feel as though you're napping behind the wheel, because otherwise you may miss your braking zone. And he'll be looking to his right for what will be the boards on the right hand side, and particularly that 100-metre board, breaking his way on down the gearbox here into 2nd gear and transitioning nicely through the chicane, double shifting up to 4th there in order to settle the car down. You can see fighting at the steering wheel as he went onto the exit curb, in which unsettled the rear of the car. These cars, of course, very low to the ground, and therefore that low ride height means when they hit those curbs it can unsettle the car. But he makes his way out of 13 and now down towards Mulsanne corner, the double right here of the kink at 14, straight lining across the kink and then straight line braking into 15. Coming down to 2nd gear, exiting out the corner, and now making his way on through. Went a bit deep there, and I hope that's not a time penalty he's accrued. I don't think he's picked it on up there. It's the fact that he's just able to keep within the limits, but now heads down towards Indianapolis corner here, down the long straight. And as he makes his way through the very gradually kink straight towards Indianapolis corner, getting himself all set up here, heading up towards the speed in excess of 207 miles an hour. Onto the brakes he goes at 211 miles an hour, down the gearbox, drilling it down from 7th to 2nd, and then back up to 4th to settle the car down. Or getting back on the throttle there. Absolutely precision-like driving as he now makes his way through an arch corner, gets that hooked up well, and now he makes his way into the ultimate test, which are the Porsche curves that are coming up. Long way to go on this straight, but to be fair, they'll come quick and fast when he arrives at them, and he's got to be ready as he heads back up into top gear here. And as he makes his way up the gearbox into 7th, now getting ready, looking to his left-hand side there for the Goodyear boards to give himself the brake marker. Down to 6th he goes, now flat out through the double left here, and as he rolls the car on through, he's got to position it well for the right-hander, brings the car out to the middle before gradually understeers a little bit wide of apex. It's going to compromise his speed and his line into the 2nd part of the Corvette curves, but just about brings it back together. A nice recovery there. Now only 4 more corners to go, and these are the chicanes which are the icing on the cake with regards to doing a good lap. As he makes his way between apexes there of turns 30 and 31, nicely hooked up down to 2nd gear, and as he makes his way out here, it's a beautiful lap from SOE Matthew. Comes to the timeline, and it is a 3:19.7. But what will our other drivers do here? As we see Seb not as fast, 2.2 seconds down. We've also got Red 92 that's gone P2. What about his EXP teammate Tom before here as he comes across the line? Will he be able to improve? He goes P3. Meanwhile, Nixo here, he's on a purple lap, and it's going to be a 3:18.2 for Nixo there. My goodness, that is an absolutely stellar lap. Now, can anybody else beat that? That's the only 18 we've seen so far. As we see Maverick comes across the line on 22. What about Bax from ATR? He goes P3 on a 19.9. We've still got more drivers making their way across. We've got Cocodine here representing TGT, and he comes across line 3 on a 3:21.6. And then we've got Magma from INCR, a 3:20.3 for him, that's P5. And then we do have Cyber coming on through here. The Premier Esports driver coming to the timeline. That's not a strong lap for Cyber, that is P10. And meanwhile, Zig Chikal, the hard runner, of course. And this is the driver that nobody wants to qualify behind, because he technically will have the initiative over the drivers he out-qualifies. And as he makes one through here, well, I think it's going to be quite a low bar for the medium runners to beat. And that's not meant to be derogatory, it's the fact this is a slower lap. And as he comes on out the final corner here, well, it's going to be quite the slow lap. It's going to be a 3:28 for Zig Chikal. And then it is the case that Anzeng on what is a lap, well, it's not even a counted lap, he's in the pit lane, and he'll be starting P12. So in the end, all the medium runners by Anzeng are able to out-qualify the hard runner. But it is the case that Nixo absolutely delivering as we transition over to the grid. So to take you through that grid, it's ERS Nixo ahead of SOE Matthew, representing ERS as well. And then we do have what is their ATRs of Bax, followed by EXP's Red 92. Then we have INCR's Magma P5, followed by EXP's Tom Befoy. Then it is going to be TGTF's Cocodine, followed by Seb from GTVE. But we jump all the way back up to the front of the field as we're about to get racing once again. And it will be Nixo09 who takes us away for race number 2. And it's lights out and away we go here for Nixo09 as he charges up towards the first corner. We immediately get to the exterior cameras here as they charge on through up towards turn number 1. And as they do in the night, it is the case we can see our top 4 immediately all going on the charge into the opening corners here as they make the way on around Le Mans once again. 6 laps, much like the first race, but the difference is they're now at night, and with everybody in the medium bar 1 driver, it is the case now it all comes about executing their strategy with precision and fuel saving where you can to get the jump. But the thing for everybody is, will they be able to stay in touch with Nixo for long as they make their way through Tetra? Well, Nixo right now is on a mission to break away, and he's already got 8 tenths between the field. Now give him comfort with regards to the slipstream in the run down the Mulsanne straight. What with that toe zone going away around 3/4 of a second, but as he makes his way down, we can see there Bax picking up a half-second penalty for track limits at Tetra. He'll have to burn that, of course, on the exit of Arnage later in the lap. We've got Magma behind him, P4. We've got Red 92 there, who's dropped multiple places at the start of the race, and in fact falling on back, and Tom Befoy as well. It is the case his teammate not having a good start to race, a half-second penalty, so both of the EXP drivers having a difficult start in different measure. Meanwhile, we can see Cocodine here, the TGTF driver, right now in P7 and just having a gradual start with Seb behind, and it is the case the GTV driver Seb72 staying close to his fellow countryman, as meanwhile teammate Maverick 27 is also in the tow, and Prima Esports is Cyber. But most of our drivers right now just running in the draft, and we can see Zigjakau still holding on to P11, as it's the case that Anzeng, who started last, is in last still currently. But as they make their way through the second of the chicanes here, we now look up towards our leaders once more, and we can see Nixo continue to break away, as meanwhile his fellow teammate ERS's Matthew here really acting as a rear gunner at this point and trying to keep the rest of the field at bay as they make the way into Mulsanne corner for the first time of asking. Now as he rolls his way on through, what's going to be interesting here is that Magma has closed up to Bax quite rapidly. Now, will he go for the move early, or will he be patient and wait for the move after the penalty's been served by Bax, given the fact that penalty's about 8 tenths of a second in actuality. It says it's half a second, but the amount of time it will cost him is about 8 tenths to a whole second. And the thing for Magma is he can draft his way past on the run up towards the Porsche curves, but he may not want to wait that long, given the fact that right now the RS drivers in P1, P2 are gradually trying to creep away. Although I say that, Matthew actually struggling a little bit there on speed into Indianapolis, and as they make the way into Arnage, well, Magma here is now just going to be given the opportunity to move up into P3 as they exit the corner. They roll the way out. We've also got penalties there for Tom Befoy, who is going to have to serve that. And what about Red 92? Can he squeeze his way past? No, Bax peels back into line there as they make the way through, the headlights shining bright. And right now Red 92 needs to find his way through, but you can see Bax there going defensive into the Porsche curves, trying to say to the EXP driver, well, one's going through, but not you. And as they make the way into the Porsche curves, only one change. Magma up into P3, Bax down to P4. But as they roll the way now through the curves here, it is the case that Tom, before having served that penalty, hasn't lost too much time, as we see Cocodine there in P7, and right now trying to balance the act of staying close to the EXP driver in front, and also breaking away some Step 72 as they make their way towards the end of this lap. But further back, we can see it is the case that Zigjakau is not being dropped by Cyber here, and well, the hard runner, is he going to come in at the end of this lap or go 2 laps on the hard? I suspect he's going to go a second lap because of that risk of the medium decaying on its 5th lap, and indeed Zigjakau playing it safe here, not doing a Magma on the previous one, which was to go 5 laps on a medium tyre. And meanwhile Anseng behind is in P12 still as they go on to the next lap. As they charge their way on through, it is the case. We can see here that Nixo09 right now leading the field, 2.5 seconds clear, and he is continuing to break away. Playing it smart here. We've got a 4 meters per second wind over the circuit as well. Bit of a different wind compared to race number 1. We had very little wind by comparison, and right now that could have an influence on certain parts of the circuit, particularly in the run down what will be in towards Arnage, where they're going to have a wind behind them, and that will cause their braking zone to be extended to a degree. But meanwhile, they make the way on down the Mulsanne straight. They won't be thinking about the wind right now unless they're thinking about flying like the wind. And speaking of flying like the wind, we ride on board here with CBR Magma from INCR, as right now he's distantly following SOE Matthew from ERS here, and in the potential fuel saving mode here for Magma. And the thing for him is, if he can keep this pressure on Matthew nice and early on, he may not have to make the overtake on circuit. He can probably do it just by fuel saving, as he short shifts there up into 6th gear. You you can definitely see he is trying to just about stay in the tow, but save as much fuel as possible in the process, and that's understandable given the fact if he can make the jump without costing himself time in the pits, then it's all worth the while as he heads down towards the braking zone here for turn number 2. And you can see how much vibration is going through the cockpit, particularly on that steering wheel, and that shows you what it looks a very level road surface. It's all those small little bumps in the road, and of course these roads are being driven on. These are roads used by actual people rather than just being a race circuit. You can see there with the road divisions and the road markers, and therefore that makes this circuit ever more challenging, of course, because it is not completely a designated racetrack as such. But as they make the way down into turn number 15 right now, it's the case that Magma staying with his rival there, but as they exit out the corner, a very smooth run through Mulsanne corner there for Magma, really hooking up that right tyre onto the apex curve, and you can see he gained a whole 10th just through rotation. And as they make the way up towards Indianapolis now, he is in that hot pursuit as we look to the exterior cameras and look back to Bax here, who in return is under pressure from Red 92, and the ATR driver has got to go defensive as the EXP driver's going to look around the outside. The Italian looks at a move here as they come through the second kink, and as they head down towards Indianapolis, surely Bax is going to back out. He's fallen behind. He decides it's a no-go. Meanwhile, Tom Bavoy here side by side with Step 72 has got a half-second penalty, and you can understand why Tom Bavoy is trying to hold on to this. He does not want the GTB driver cost him any time, even if he's got to serve a penalty very shortly, and the EXP driver holding on right now as meanwhile Cocodine has dropped behind Seb, and you can see it's the case that all the field starting to stagger behind as they make the way onto the Porsche curves here. Seb takes that brief penalty and returns to speed, but can Codine come through? Will Maverick also come on through here? The teammate of Seb, of course, from GTB, as they make the way up into the Porsche curves. Indeed, it's a 2-for-1 pass. As they make the way up into the Porsche curves here, it is against the Frenchman ahead of the Canadian at this point, but you can imagine Cocodine right now for with his TGTF Bunny, it is the case rolling the way on through, and as they head through the Corvette curves now, it is the case in that dirty air. Maverick really struggling to keep with the Frenchman in front right now as the Canadian, as it is the case that warm draft is just causing that front end to lose rotation into the corner apexes, and therefore Maverick's got to back it off. And you can see he going into the Porsche curves, he was about 6/10 off on the exit of the Corvette curves. He's now a whole second back, and that is the pinch on that front end, which is just not comfortable with that dirty air in front as they go on to lap number 3. But meanwhile into the pit, here comes Zig Jacau, but we look back to the battle for P10 here between Anzeng and where's SOE Cyber. It is against the GTB driver on the inside through the kink of 1, but now on the outside, and the braking zone is a tap to the rear for Anzeng from the Premium Esports driver of Sabre, and as they make their way out to turns 2 and 3, well, both of them have got damage respectively. Zen at the rear of the car, Cyber at the front of the car, and well, that's not the damage they'll want. That will cost them on the straight. That'll be aero damage, and that may just hurt their race a little bit more. And Zig Jacau right now, as he sits in the pit lane here, they're putting some fuel in the car. You'd have to imagine that once he's taken this stop now, he can go full attack for the remainder of the race. He's put 20 litres in the car, or 20% more fuel in, and now the Polishman is the one to watch at ATR. He's had a solid opening stint. Now what can he bring to the table? Is this the right strategy? He started P11, where's he going to finish? Meanwhile, going from one Polishman on the charge to one Polishman who has been charging all the way since the very start of today, and that is Nixo right now. Where's the ERS driver here? 3.6 seconds clear of his teammate Matthew as they make the way up towards the second chicane of Mulsanne, and right now Matthew has broken away from Magma. He's got that gap open to 1.2 seconds, and ERS are in control here as they make the way towards the halfway point of race number 2. Meanwhile, Red 92 with another half-second penalty. It is the case here, the EXP driver really not having a happy day at the races here. Indeed, EXP in general just not quite able to avoid a race that instant, and as they make the way up towards what it turns 14 and 15 here, Red 92 will know he's got another penalty to serve when he comes out of Arnage, but Bax meanwhile still under pressure here, the ATR driver from the other EXP driver, Tom Bivoy, as they make the way in towards Mulsanne. And as they do, there's damage to the rear of Bax's car as well. Now, where has that damage come from is the big question. When it's not on Tom Bivoy's car, so there was contact between the two of them, and Tom Bivoy's got away with it by comparison in terms of damage, but Bax has definitely got some rear end damage, and that maybe just cost him a little bit on these straights here. We can see Tom Bivoy right in the draft, and also in a higher fuel map here, in the fact that he's not gaining as much as he would perhaps potentially be doing if he were running on fuel map 1, which is all power and less economy. And as they make the way in through Indianapolis right now, Tomafoy definitely holding his ground here and getting ready to potentially go for a move a little bit later on in the race and potentially on that strategy. But we can see that Cocodine here under pressure once again from Maverick, and Seb 72 behind's got another penalty to serve. It's a 1 second penalty that he'll burn and drop away from this battle for P7. But right now the GGTF driver really under big pressure here from the GTB driver behind as they make the way into the Porsche curves. Now the thing for Cocodine is, can they find a way to just simply keep Maverick at bay, or is it wiser to let the Canadian go? That's the other fault here, the other question. I think that right now, given that Maverick does not seem to quite feel that comfortable in this dirty air, may as well try and stay ahead, try and punish the driver behind for the warmth on those front tyres and the fact they'll be shredding those front tyres more than they would naturally as they make the way on around. But as they come roaring on through at this point, it is the case here. The Frenchman presses on and Maverick again falls back, and you can just see Maverick is not comfortable in those sweeping corners with the dirty air off the car in front. He can gain everywhere else on the lap, but he loses out by 4 attempts through those last few corners, and that is where the cost is. But as they make the way onto lap number 4 here, it is the case we can see Step 72 giving pursuit, and then Prima Esports' SOE Cyber here making the way up towards turns 1, 2 and 3. As they charge them through at this point, with Anzeng a bit further back here and still damage on the rear of the car. It's not a happy day at the officer's end right now as they make the way on through and onto this lap. Meanwhile, Zingchikau, of course, the driver who started on the hard and has made his pit stop to go onto the medium. Right now, he's going to have the lightest car he can for that medium tyre, and he's got all the fuel in the world to play with. It is the case we're expecting him to push all the way to the finish, and he's got to gain those places on this lap effectively. So you can imagine all of our medium runners should be coming in at the end of lap number 4, and this is the man they all need to beat, because right now he'll be looking to tear up the timing towers as he makes his way on through. But as we look from the back of the field to the front, it's now a 3.1 second gap between race leader ERS 6009 and ERS's driver SOE Matthew as they head on down. Meanwhile, INCR's representative at CBR Magba here after a difficult race 1. This is a more calculated race 2 by comparison, and in fact let's give you a comparison of the tyres and the fuel as they currently stand. Starting with our race leader here, you can see it's the case he's been using a lot of tyre, but in terms of fuel he's got about what is 33% left in the gauge, perhaps 35% there. And as he makes his way down towards Molzan, his teammate by comparison about 1% more fuel, Matthew, compared to the leader, and in his case he's been protecting those tyres a little bit more as well, although I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference here. He hasn't protected them enough to do a 5th lap. We then have what is INCR's Magma here, who has been using a bit more fuel compared to his rivals in front, and also a bit more tyre. In Magma's driving style in this hybrid machine does seem to be a bit more aggressive, and it is costing him tyre life. And as we look to Red 92, in this case Red 92 on similar fuel compared to our leaders, the top 2 in particular, and similar tyre life. I'm going to look a bit further back there, and Tomafoy's been doing a bit more fuel saving by comparison, but not tyre saving. I can tell you that right now. Those tyres looking more like Magmas as they make the way on down here, and the Italians definitely really biting into those tyres. As meanwhile we see the ATR driver here of Bax, despite the damage on the car, has actually done quite a bit of fuel saving as the Polishman, and right now that could bode well for closing up, but he will have to take some repair work from the pits, and that repair work will be about 3 to 5 seconds we reckon, and that could really cost him in terms of his battle for the top 5 finish. We then see Cocodine here has been doing quite a lot of fuel saving as well, not as much tyre preservation, particularly that rear left tyre is about to blow, it would seem. And then we do have Maverick here who's used a lot of fuel, and that's the one thing we know about Maverick. He seems to use more fuel than most as we see Tomafoy having to go slowly on the outside. Oh goodness, it's been Tomafoy with huge damage on the car. We're wondering, so there wasn't a penalty. Well, he's paid a penalty here, which is he's got engine damage all over the car as well. There's damage to both the air and suspension. That's got to be a hit to the wall surely at what is on large corners. He spins across the circuit there, and meanwhile Cyber will come on through surely to take the position. There's no doubt about that as Tomafoy right down the middle of the road, and Cyber, oh goodness me, and it's a whack to the wall there as he tries to go around the outside, and Anzeng just about, well, in fact, a wax the wall for Anzen as well. It's the case that these 3 have all been in the wars, and right now it is not a happy day for any of them as they roll the way through, but Zen is able to survive just about as pit stop season commences, and well, as they all right now make the way into the pits, or they're currently being serviced, it is the case here. We can see the pit crew going to work for ERS Dixo here, and well, this should be a very straightforward stop for the team, but the big question of course is where, in fact, as Anzeng has surely he's gone round for another lap. My goodness, well Zen was hoping to go 5 laps down the medium. Well, this is a surprise, and he's going to go up into what will be, I do believe, not the lead of this race, but P2 with Nixo coming on out. But now Zen will essentially become a rolling roadblock as then Matthew goes a bit deep into the... Oh, goodness me, Lewis loses the rear end there. It's all kicking off here in race number 2. And meanwhile, the big question that we haven't answered, where is Zigjiao in all of this? Because he's the driver everyone's got to try and beat. Well, here is Zigjiao, and he's up into P9 and going up the inside of GTfusiOn Maverick into turn 2. But Maverick just holds the line for now, but Zigjiao right there and trying to go on the offensive as WSR Seb also tries to get into the mix, and the GTfusiOn drivers trying to help one another out as they make the way down through turns 4 and 5, but Zigjiao's between the pair of them. But as they roll the way on through right now, it is the case that Zigjiao has a huge opportunity here. He's got the medium tyre for 2 laps, and that tyre he can abuse all the way to the end. Meanwhile, the guys around him on the hard tyre, well, we saw in qualifying how off the hard tyre was compared to the medium. Zigjiao's just got to go all in here and just nail the corners, because if he can nail them, he will be making his way up the order here. And to be fair, with Bax not too much further up the road, Zigjiao could be going for a top 6 here as he makes his way up the inside of what is Maverick there into the first of the chicanes. On the brakes he goes. And rolling his way through here, all he's got to do is now exit and break away. The rear snaps on him, but he's just about to keep it together there. And, well, he didn't have the best of exits there. Now Maverick will try and come back. Bax is only 1.5 seconds up the road, and he's got a half-second penalty. The ATR driver here is going to fall back into the clutches of his teammate. And to be fair, Zigjiao right now, there is no reason. We can also see Cody just a bit further up the road as well, only a further 2 seconds up the road. This is a huge task now for the ATR driver, but it's not an impossible one as they make the way through the second Mulsanne chicane. Here you can see Maverick all over the back of Zigjiao as they roll the way on out. He opens that gap up to 6/10, and that's the medium tyre. It's just working for him as they make the way up towards Mulsanne, and as they make the way towards that corner, Bax peeling over to the side there. I think he's aware of the fact that his teammate's going to be the next one to come through, and I mean, he's saying to his teammate right now, I'm not going to fight you, as they make the way in to turn number 15. But as they roll the way into the right-hander here, it is the case that right now Zigjiao is the man to watch. Meanwhile, further down the road, it is the case after all the chaos before the pit stop, Tommy Voigt ahead of what is Cyber here. Well, right now Cyber with a 1.5 second penalty for track limits, we believe, at Tetra Rouge. It is the case the Premium Resports driver here is having a day that's only getting worse the more laps he turns at the circuit. But as he makes way into the braking zone here in the second race for the penultimate time, it is the case that Cyber right now will regroup after the break. There's no doubt about that. But we look from them back up to Zigjiao here, who's picked up a half-second penalty for track limits at Indianapolis, and those penalties are going to be so punishing now, given the fact he's not going to take it on this lap. And in fact, this works out to Zigjiao's advantage a little bit, as we see Coding there also going slowly as Bax is trying to come on through. Well, this is a battle for P6, and you've got 5 drivers in the hunt for it right now, and it's the case that TGTF's Coding here leading this battle. But as they roll the way through the Porsche curves here, Bax and Zigjiao, literally the 2 teammates here trying to work this one out. They don't want to fight one another, but at the same time they don't want to cost one another the places to the GTE drivers behind as they make the way into the Corvette curves here. It is all coming to a crescendo in race number 2, and you think we've still got more races to go as Anzeng is into the pits from what was at the time P4. And in making his way on in here, he's decided to go 5 laps on the medium. He's made it work successfully, in fact, so that's something for us to watch out for in future races, in the fact that you can do 5 laps on the medium tyre with significant tyre management. But right now, Zigjiao, he's not thinking about tyre management. He is thinking about going past his teammate and going for what will be effectively, if he can get this done, this is a P4 on the cards here for Zigjiao. All he needs to do is nail this final lap and break away with that penalty. But can he do it? That's the question, as that medium tyre right now is going to offer him enough grip, but he's got to get close enough to exploit it. But of course, his teammate Bax here trying to keep Coding within reach. They don't want to lose the draft to the Frenchman in front. Meanwhile, as we see that Bax goes wide, oh goodness me, and the car slides across the road, and he just about stops it from careening into his teammate there. And as they make the way onto the Mulsanne straight, well, it's the case that Bax now is side by side with Maverick, and to be fair, he hasn't lost too much momentum as they make the way on the straight. But as they head on down, Maverick will get ahead for the time being. Behind, Step 72 has got a 1 second penalty to compound his woes, and that means the GTE driver at this point, well, he can be a threat here, but he won't be able to take the position, we reckon, given the fact They will have to yield it on the exit of Arnage when serving that penalty. But as we look from them making the one through, we look back up to this battle for what is P4, and we can see that Cody with a 1 second penalty. These penalties are coming thick and fast, and well, we don't want races to be decided on penalties here, much like nobody wants a football match to be decided on penalties, but it is the case. I think it will be that P4 is all going to come down to who picks up the smallest penalty right now as they roll the way through the second chicane. Meanwhile, a bit further back, you can see how Back's holding Seb at bay, and as we look up towards the front of the field, it is the case. We can see here Nixo09, and well, my eyes don't deceive me there. That's a half-second penalty for Nixo09. He's decided to push it a bit too far, but given the fact he's got a 10-second advantage to teammate SOE Matthew, the RS driver is going to feel safe from his teammate. And here is Matthew to give you a relative comparison as they head down towards Indianapolis, and Red 92, really the best of the rest right now, the Italian for EXP in P3. And then we have this 12.5-second delta from P3 to P4 in this 5-way battle, which could go any which way. But you can see one thing here, Cocodine and Zigchikau have both broken away from Maverick, and Maverick, you would argue, if he can get close enough, could take both of these places, as Zigchikau now has a 2-second penalty, and meanwhile Maverick under huge pressure from Bax as they make the way into Indianapolis corner here. And as they do, well, it's the case that for Maverick, all he's got to do is hold on, and if he can, he's guaranteed P5 here. I think given the size of the penalty that Zigchikau's got to bear into this zone, we'll have to wait and see. Now it's all going to play out. They're going slowly. Cocodine's done their penalty. Zigchikau meanwhile loses the place to Maverick as Bax also comes on through. Cocodine's going to be safe, we reckon, but meanwhile we must cut from them, because meanwhile your race leader's making his way through the final couple of corners, and as he comes on through, it's 2 out of 2 for ERS's Nix09 as he takes the checker flag in race number 2 in a margin of 9 seconds in the end, ahead of teammate from ERS of SOE Matthew. A brilliant drive from the ERS drivers, making it a 1-2 for them as they cross the line, and it'll be EXP's Red 92 who takes P3 despite a 2-second penalty at the end. And here comes Cocodine from TGTF. It is the case here as the Frenchman makes the way for the final couple of corners. It's not been without fault or flaw this race, but in the end it's mattered at the very end, and that's where he's made it count. He crosses the line P4 here ahead of ATR's Bax, who that 1-second penalty will yield to Maverick, who takes P5, Bax P6, Zigchikau P7, Seb 72 from GTB in P8, and then we will have shortly with his CBR Magma from INCR coming on through to take P9, rolling the way on through as they come to the line here on that hard tyre. A difficult race for the Italian, and then Anzen, they're coming on through with a 1-second penalty, but I believe that will still be P10 for the Frenchman from GTB. EXP's one up Tom before their P11, and then very shortly we'll have Prima Esports' SOE Sabre coming across the line, the Frenchman at P12 last but not least as they cross the timeline. But what a brilliant race from all of our drivers, and a congratulations once again to ERS Nix09. Well, that is race 2 out of 4 here today at Le Mans in Group B of the GTfusiOn 2022 Team World Championships round number 4. And well, what a few stories we have there. We got to see, firstly, a continued dominant run from ERS's Nixo09. We also saw his teammate of what was SOE Matthew there, making it an ERS 1-2. And you can imagine if they can make it a 1-2 for the remainder of tonight, that will give them some huge points in the overall team championship as we go deeper into this season, as we're about to get ready for our 10-minute break. But also how penalties in the end really hurt drivers when it mattered most, but not for the TGTF driver of Cocodine. And then the last consideration, of course, we got to see 2 different strategies play out. We saw the hard into medium strategy work for Zigchikau, but penalties held him back in the end, and also that you can do 5 laps on a set of medium tyres as demonstrated by GTB's Anzeng. But it is the case, ladies and gentlemen, with that we are about to let our drivers take a 10-minute break. We will be back for the build-up to what is race number 3, in fact qualifying number 3. The lobby will open at what will be 8:38 p.m. in terms of what will be French time, alternatively I do believe a UTC time, but we'll be back for it as soon as the lobby opens. So we'll be back at what will be in British time there 19:38, or in other words 38 minutes past 7 in the evening. And when we do return, we look forward to seeing how it all plays on out. But don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back soon for plenty more racing action. You can bet it'll be coming right at you very fast at Le Mans. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, well, as we return there, but not just before a word from our series partner Excite, the place to race, of course. It is the case we are back then for the start of qualifying session 3, which leads us naturally into race number 3. Now, of course, all the drivers have had a bit of a breather. They've had the opportunity to take a break and cool their jets and get themselves mentally set for the last 2 races of today. And just to remind you, our last 2 races of today are much like what is race number 2. We have 1 qualifying lap, followed by a 6-lap race, and it'll be the same for races 3 and 4, albeit with some change in conditions. But the key thing is here with the fact that we will be seeing our drivers have to declare their tyre choice over the course of their warm-up lap. They will not have the ability to duck into the pits and put on a different set of tyres with a different compound before they go to that qualifying lap. Will we see anybody decide to do the ATR Zig-Jacal move of deciding to start on the hards? And well, we can see here as they make the way on around on their initial warm-up lap, it is the case that EXP's Red 92 has decided to go out on the medium, but meanwhile behind the Italian it is the case that 772 has decided to qualify on the hard, so it will mean that he will be taking the slower, less optimal tyre to begin with in the race. We're expected to qualify down towards the bottom of the field, but could he get the jump much like Zig-Jacal tried in race number 2? We can also see ERS's Matthew here. He's decided to start on the medium, with then ERS Nixo on the medium as well. And to be fair to Nixo, given the pace he has shown, unless it's an absolutely anomalous qualifying lap, you would imagine that he will continue to be on pole and try to go for the breakaway strategy, which is just simply run away from the field of the opening couple of laps. Cody, meanwhile, the TGTF driver, decided to start in what is the medium tyre there, and behind we see the EXPs at the top before it decided to start on the medium as well. We also have what looks to be their GTV's Maverick, the Canadian driver, going on the medium, followed by what is GTPL or ATR's Baxter on the medium. We've got Anzeng on the hard here, so it is the case that decide to follow a little bit of the hard strategy. We also see INCR's Magba here, it is the case on that medium, followed by Prima Esports' SOE Cyber there on the medium, and then Zig-Jacal once again deciding to go for the hard here. So a few more starting to invest in that strategy and see him burning some fuel. But meanwhile, we come back to our leader here of what is Red 92. As he gets ready to go on to his one and only flying lap in this qualifying session, and we'll ride on board for it. As he makes his way then through what is the final couple of corners, charging onto lap, riding on board the roll bar here as he makes his way across that line and heads up towards turn number 1. And as he charges on through, all the way up through the gearbox into 6th gear, not quite into top gear this time around, rolling into turn 1 before breaking into turns 2 and 3 here through the chicane. Misses apex there of turn number 2 and understeers wide. That's going to cost him at least half a second as he makes his way down the hill through 4 and into 5 now as he charges on down. It is the case that Red 92 try to deliver this lap, but it is because the lap's creeping away from him early on, but can he recover it as he makes his way up into Tetrouge? Well, here it'll be about the commitment, a dab of the brakes before charging through the corner and just keeps 2 wheels on the exit curve there. I think that was valid. It's going to be close, but the automated shooting system says yes, it was valid as he makes his way now onto the Mulzone straight and can take that breather after one of the most challenging parts of the circuit is complete. But charging all the way down towards what is the first of the Mulzone chicane in towards turn number 12, he will shortly brake. And as he does look into the left-hand side for his brake marker there, that 100-metre board, and as he rolls the car in, is the case there, staying in 3rd gear. Some drivers decide to come into 2nd, but not so for Red 92. Decide to stay in 3rd all the way through the chicane, and then use the full whip there of corner exit, almost hitting the wall on the left-hand side of the corner. He's going to pick up some dust and marbles there on the tyres, which he'll gradually wear off, but they may affect his braking line into the next chicane by a small margin. As he heads all the way down, he's not phased by it and heads all the way into the braking zone here, braking the 100 board, heading all the way down to 3rd gear. And as he does, nicely done, and again staying in 3rd, not using 2nd for the chicane, and that may be the secret to success in terms of getting a smooth exit out of those chicanes. Decide to stay in a higher gear all the way through and not having to do that double shift from 2nd to 4th. But as he makes his way up towards the Mulzone corner, is the case, getting ready for perhaps the heaviest braking zone on the circuit, and onto the brakes he goes from 202 miles an hour all the way down to 1st gear, and rolling on out there up to 2nd nice and early so he doesn't get the wheel spin. And as he heads all the way up through the gearbox now, building up towards 7th gear here, maxing out in terms of the RPM, although decides to short shift a little bit early there before going right into the red line. And I think that's simply because of the case that this car does peak out a little bit earlier than red line, and as he makes his way all the way through, now down towards the break-ins over Indianapolis at this point. It is the case. It's been a smooth lap so far, bar one mistake that we saw at turn number 2 and headed for Indianapolis here in third gear. A little bit of understeer creeping into the car. They're not quite able to get it onto the apex curve. That's not going to cost him too much, perhaps a 10th at most. And as he makes his way through Arnage there, recovers it well in Arnage. That's a very smooth Arnage corner as he now makes his way up towards the Porsche curves. Heading on through at this point now, the biggest technical part of the circuit awaits him as he gets ready to go into the long right-hander here, all the way up to 7th gear, and as he gets ready to head on in here with a wind that's blowing to the right of almost 4 meters per second, that will cause the car to bite into the corner a little bit more, but conversely through these double left-handers it calls the car to understeer away, but it is nicely hooked up here by Red 82 as he heads on through, and look at that run into the Corvette curves right on the apex. Brings the car through, stamps back on the throttle, and that is exactly the line you want on a qualifying lap. This is looking a good lap here for the EXP drivers. He now heads towards the final 4 corners, the 2 chicanes, into turns 30 and 31, bounces over the curbing, now into 32, 33, straight lines between the two of them, cuts as much as possible, and as he comes to a timeline here, what's it going to be for the reference lap? It's going to be a 3:20.952, not the best, but by no means the worst. We'd see Seb there not going anywhere near as fast, and it is the case that SOE Matthew goes P2 by a sizable margin, and then it is Nixo who delivers a 3:19.767. Well, that is going to be a hard lap to beat by 1.2 seconds over the field. Tom Before, meanwhile, making his way to the line P4. We can see that Maverick goes P4 and demoted at Tom Before. We've also got, I believe that's ATR's backs up to P2 on a 3:20.3. So 6 tenths off of the pole sitter, still more times to come on in. We can see Cocoding there, in fact, with a lap that's had to be aborted due to a penalty being picked up, and then the same. Well, that's not going to work out for the pair of them, and we've still got more drives to go, including INCR's Magba here, making his way to the line, and, well, this is looking to be a relatively good lap for the Italian driver. It's P5 there so far. We've still got a couple more to go. Well, we've got Cyber making his way into the Porsche chicanes now. We'll say the Porsche curves, I should say, and as he makes his way on through, well, there's not much time left here. To be fair, he's left it late, and if he delivers this lap, it could see him jump all the way up into the top 5 if he's nailed it on. Rolling his way through the left into right here, coming out of the curves. It is the case, the Prima driver rolling on through, heading into the braking zone for the chicane, and as he does here, well, he's not got long left, he needs to get this lap on in, heading on into the left into right here, turns 32 and 33, comes on out. I don't think it's the lap he's wanted, to be fair, and in the end that's going to be a P9 for the medium runner, and then Zigchikau, well, on that hard tyre, well, Cody, to be fair, it's P11 and Zigchikau could jump him. It is the case, he will be very comfortably then onto what is that P11 position, but he comes for the last couple of corners here. It's a nice lap, and actually this is quite a good lap. It's going to see him qualify quite high. He comes across line P9 to Zigchikau. He's going to be quite highly placed, but that is qualified complete, and it's Nixo who takes pole position for the 3rd time in a row. As our drivers get the itch to go racing here, we transition over to the grid. So it's Nix09 who lines off on pole for ERS with ATR's backs behind in P2, EXP's a Red 92 P3, ERS's Matthew P4, Magma from INCR P5, and then we have GTV's Maverick P6, Tom Before from EXP P7, then we have Step 72 from GTV P8. Those are your front 4 rows. We head back up towards our leader, however, who starts off the race very shortly. And it's lights out and away we go here for Nixo as he gets our field underway for race number 3. And as they charge all the way out towards turns 2 and 3, in towards the chicane, once again they go. It is the case we can see there, all line astern with the fact with the rolling start. But there is a little bit of an instant then. In fact, it's Nixo who's dropped a couple of places. Now, what on earth has happened here? I'm not 100% sure, but Banks is all the way up into lead this race. Well, that's a bit of latency and a bit of surprise latency at that. But Banks is into lead this race, and Nixo's got some damage to the car, but that was very odd there. I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together, but it is the case that Nixo dropping down, damage to the front end of the car, and as he makes his way out of what is Tetra Ridge corner here, Magma right now is going on the offensive, and Nixo not having the race he wanted, but that is a really odd start to race, and I think there was a bit of a major latency spike, which has cost multiple drivers, and I'm hearing that SOE Matthew in particular has had a very difficult start. He's dropped all the way outside the top 8, But right now, Magba on the charge here as they make the way up towards the Bolzan chicane. The first of the two of them for the first time asking. But here's your top three. And then further back, we do see here EXP's top before it. And right now having a good start with Seb behind on the hard tyre, no less. And this is a huge opportunity for the GTB driver, because every driver he can keep behind him on that medium right now, it will work out massively for him as time wears on. Meanwhile, all the way back up front, we can see here it's the case that our medium leaders all trying to make that early breakaway. But as we see, Magba's broke his way past Nixo right now. It's the case that Magba going on the offensive here, and well, this could be the one race he needs to turn it all around. We're coming all the way down towards Bolzan corner very shortly. We look a bit further down the order, and we can see here with Seb under pressure and Zinch counter pressure as well. Here comes Cyber, who's on the medium tyre here, the Premier Esports driver, and he's going to try and make it a two-way pass into Molzan. Now, can he get it done? That'll be the big challenge here. We can see Zinch peeling out to the inside here, and Cyber decided not to go for the move. So it is the case that the ATR driver is going to go up the inside on the brakes, on cold hard tyres here, and gets it hooked up. Seb goes a little bit deep, and Cyber gets a good exit here, and will Zinch up a position into P5 as they make the way down towards Indianapolis. But as they charge their way on down, it is the case that right now our hard runners here, Zichikau and Seb, have both got a huge chance and a major opportunity of a top 5 finish up for grabs if they can nail the first 2 laps of this stint. And to be fair, given the fact we have seen that it's possible to take 5 laps on the medium and still get to the end with some compound left, it may be the case that we see a little bit more. But we are hearing there's been some concerns with regards to connectivity in this race, and well, some drivers are calling for a restart there, but I don't think we're going to be seeing a restart here given the race is underway. We'll have to wait and see, but all goodness me, and well, we've just had a driver phase out of existence there for a brief one. That's Magba dropping a long way back there. Well, it is definitely the case that latency seems to be plaguing this race compared to the first 2, as we see Tom before they get it a bit wrong going into the Porsche curves. But all drivers going through. Oh, goodness me, Tom before into the wall there, and our second penalty to compound his woes. Well, this is not going the way the EXP driver wants, so that is going to force him to pit early. And well, I would imagine he'd go to the hard and try to do the entire race on the hard tyre, but that is going to be a sad day for the EXP driver in race number 3. As meanwhile, Zinchikau comes on through here and will go up to P4. And he decides to stay on out there and not try and gamble on doing what would be effectively the 1 lap hard 5 lap medium split. As we hear that Nixo's into the pits for that slight damage on the front end, well, surely that will mean he'll be going onto the hard tyre for the remainder of the race, which if so, we know he's the fastest driver here by a considerable margin, but can he make it work on that hard tyre as they make the way on through? But as we see there, and say hello to Chris GT and 1992 in the YouTube chat there, and Lucas talking about the latency. Indeed, quite a lot of latency plaguing this lobby. It is because we see Magba there going a bit wide, as meanwhile Seb trying to keep everyone at bay. And well, at the moment it's the case the Premier Esports driver here of Cyber getting as close as possible, but not able to find that move as Coding there in P5 staying with them as they roll the way on down towards Tetra Rouge corner. And as they do, we run on board here with the Frenchman from Premier Esports as he heads onto the Molzad straight. Charging all the way down at this point. A half-second penalty to compound his woes there due to track limits at Tetra Rouge corner, and this is not going to help him. It means he will now need to try and get a bit closer and get the move done earlier rather than later as he heads on through. But the thing for the medium runners is as well, they have to protect this tyre. They can't just simply go all in on it for the fact they need to extend it to 4 laps as a minimum, although we see a 1-second penalty there for Step 72. So I think Cyber at this point will be thinking actually it's not so bad after all as they make their way out of Bolzan, the first of Bolzan chicane, and now to the next one. But as they come and charge down towards the next chicane here, it is the case. Well, right now to Cyber, he's got to try and get a bit closer, but in that draft as well, he'll be doing fuel saving, so it's a balancing act as he heads all the way up towards the second chicane. Charge down here as we look back to the exterior cameras. You can see a bit further back there, CBR Magba not happy with the current car. You can see there's damage on that front right-hand suspension, and it is the case Magba there, who was showing a lot of pace to begin with. Well, that damage is definitely going to hurt his handling through particularly those right-hand corners, and also his left-handers to an extent as he makes his way on around now. It is the case the Italian here not having any luck today, it would seem, at Le Mans. But meanwhile, Nixo here, after serving that early pit stop, and indeed multiple drivers taking a very early pit stop here, it is the case onto that hard tyre and trying to make it last all the way to the end of the race and deliver the pace as well. But rolling on through, it is the case we do see Anzeng here in P8, and right now switching to that medium, of course, starting on the hard tyre here. It is the case the Frenchman will know and that he's got it all to play for. As meanwhile, Tom Bifoy onto the hard tyre after that early damage, and well, this is going to be a difficult one for the EXP driver. And then ERS's Matthew here in P10 onto that hard tyre with that damage picked up at the start of the race. Maverick as well, and then we do have EXP's Red 92 on that hard tyre. So we've got a lot of hard runners towards the back of the field here, forced to go onto the hard due to damage picked up on the opening lap, and that means that this race will be really wide open now, and we could have a new winner in race number 3 for Group B here today. But speaking of potential new winners, here is ATR's Bax as he makes his way up through the Porsche curves, and right now leading by almost 11 seconds over ATR's at Zigzag here. His teammate, well, Bax of course is on the medium tyre, his teammate is on the hard tyre, but these two are just running away with the show. And then we have Cyber in P3 on, where's that medium tyre? He's found his way past Seb off camera, and we're hearing that happen in the run to Indianapolis. But right now, Cyber definitely trying to dig deep here and go after Zigzag to upset what could be a 1-2 for ATR. As we see Zigzag into the pits, he's done his 2 laps on the hard tyres, and now he's going to go to the end on the medium shortly. As meanwhile, Bax charges on around onto another lap here and takes that medium a bit further. But as they do, you can see Seb here deciding to go a 3rd lap of the hard tyre. I think for Seb, this is the wrong call. That medium window is open right now. I think if he does one more lap, it's the case he's going to lose all what the medium has to offer. Well, he's going to go for it here. He feels happy in that hard tyre, and fair play to the GTB driver, but I think this is 1 lap too far as he makes his way on around. But as he charges on down towards what is the left into right here, it is the case. We can see in the YouTube chat there the official fan club of Zigzag, and well, a lot of people happy there and happy to see him doing well by the sounds of things, which is always great to see. A lot of fan favourites there in the YouTube chat. But as our drivers come on around here, we can see co-coding and TF right now chasing after it's Step 72 as they make their way down the Mulsanne straight, and as they charge all the way down towards what is the Mulsanne chicane here, it is the case that we can see the Frenchman gaining gradually, albeit not quite in the draft at the moment, but he will gain for the corners given the fact it's on that medium versus the hard. But I'm really perplexed as to Seb doing that extra lap right now. I must be honest with you, I think he's only compounded what is a bit of pain on that hard tyre and made it worse. And Kokodi now almost in that draft. In fact, he's in the toe as they make their way down, or already. No, he's not. That gap does open up a little bit, and I think Seb's having to use a bit more fuel to get this done, to keep that gap open as they make their way on down. And that's the differential here. Seb is going all in on the hard tyre here, and well, if it's the case he's going all in on that, he must be looking to go absolutely mayday on that medium tyre and hit it hard and hit it fast, because 3 laps on that medium, if he goes all in on it, those could do very well. But as he makes his way on around here, you can see that Kokodi just behind. Nixo, meanwhile, on that hard tyre, being forced to go to it after 1 lap due to the damage picked up on the opening lap. In all what happened on the opening lap, there were latency and whatnot. It is the case of Polyphony right now, trying to make it 3 out of 3 in terms of wins after 3 out of 3 pole positions. But do keep in mind, of course, there's a 40-second gap between him and the leader. He is the fastest man on circuit, but he also does have a 1-second penalty to burn on this lap. As he makes his way up towards Mulsanne corner here, is the case just behind him. We do see ATL Zigzag here, and it is the case that the Polish driver does have a huge opportunity, which is he is on the medium. He's got the fuel to go to the end. The driver in front of Nixo is on the hard, so you can imagine that if he's able to get close enough to Nick, so he could potentially put the move on him whilst that tyre's in its prime, and Zeng behind on the medium as well, having gone from the hard to the medium. And it is the case trying to close up to the ATR driver. It's the GTB driver as they come on through. And then we do have INCR's Magba here on that hard tyre right now, forced to go onto that hard tyre, of course, after a difficult opening stint on the medium. And we do see Tom Bifoy here on that medium tyre with a 3-second penalty. Well, it is the case the EXP driver just having no fortune in this race. So we get Matthew here for ERS as well onto that hard right now. And of course, Matthew, much like his teammate, having to run a hard recovery all the way to the end. GTV's Maverick here on that hard and Red 92, and they're closing together, are these two. And I don't think it'll be long before Red 92 looks for the move. As they make the way on out, we look from what is almost halfway around the lap to going on to lap number 4, and that shows you how much of a gap's been opened up with everything that's happened. And here's your race leader right now of ATR's Bax as he makes his way into turn number 2, and with that advantage we see Seb is finally into the pits here. The pit crew coming out for GTBE, but I think they will be questioning whether they've made the right call. Of course, they could prove us wrong here as we do wait for that stop to get underway. They've got the tyres ready, but the thing is, the fact he's gone 1 extra lap on that hard Will it have been the right one to make? Will he be able to extract the pace he needs on 3 laps of that medium tyre? And we see Nixo coming on through here to retake more effectively be P4, and on that hard tyre he is being chased down by Zicchikau. But the thing about this is the fact the Euro S driver is showing a huge amount of pace despite being on the suboptimal tyre, as meanwhile they're putting the fuel into Seb's car and Zicchikau comes on through, and also his team out Zheng. We've still got Magma coming on through here up towards where it's the chicane, so Seb's going to be back out in P7 and have plenty of space to play with. Meanwhile, as we see a bit more latency there for Magma and not the way we want it to go, it is the case we do look from them to what is the battle for P11 here, and Red 92 has got past where's Maverick 27 in the runs one large corner, and can he break away now into as the Porsche curves out? I think he can, as they roll the way through the right into left-hander. Looking good at the moment is Red 92 to try and recover some points, but it is the case that this is not the place that he wants to be battling for as they make the way up through and up towards the Corvette curves. You see Maverick again just struggling in that dirty area as he goes very wide, does Maverick, and I think that will be a track limits penalty that will be added to his race time very shortly, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, it is indeed. It's a 1 second penalty there, and I think he'll be a bit frustrated at that, given the fact that dirty air just seems to halt him through that sections of corners. But meanwhile, as he makes his way on around here, we do look from him to what is not our race leader, but we look to our P3 driver here, that Saber, as it is the case, the Premier Esports driver here, trying to hunt down Cocodine right now, the TGTF driver, and is gradually gaining. But the bigger question we need to ask is, what's the status of our drivers in terms of strategy and fuel right now in this elite group? So as we look to our leader, and that is ATL's backs here, it is the case we can see running on about 34 litres or 34% fuel, making his way down into what is the braking zone here for Indianapolis, and as he comes through, in fact that's more like 31% now. It is the case, the tyres almost at the end of their life here. Backs has been pushed them very hard, and to be fair has got himself a 20-second gap over the field. But it is the case Cocodine here right now on plenty more fuel by comparison, about 5% more fuel, and that is going to save a couple of seconds in terms of pit stop time. But those tyres in a similar state, the TGTF driver pressing on, and then we do see, as we say, but there with damage to the car, whacked to the wall somewhere on circuit. But it is the case closed up, but using a lot of fuel to deliver these laps, and has set the fastest lap of the race on that medium tyre, and is currently going on an even faster lap. But you can imagine the Premier Esports driver here right on the edge of the available grip. Behind them, we see Nixo here, of course, having taken his pit stop and put the fuel in to go to the end of this hard tyre, and is currently going the fastest of everybody despite being on the hard tyre, and is charging on around. And then we do have ATL Zicchikau here, who is continuing to try and close down Nixo, and is gradually doing so little by little, having taken that pit stop to go to the medium from the hard after 2 laps. And right now looking good with Anzeng behind, not closing up, not losing out, staying about the same. And then we do have Seb, who has recently jumped onto the medium tyre here, and 3 laps of medium tyres here, which he can absolutely push all the way as he makes his way on through and up towards where the Porsche curves. And then it's Magma here on that medium, about to serve another 1 second penalty, followed by what is SW's Matthew for ERS. And then we do have Red 92 here, find his way past his teammate up into B10, as Tom Avoy's got damage to the car once again. That's engine damage. Now, where on earth has that happened? Well, it's got to have been at one of the chicanes, and it's not worked out for him at all. And Maverick behind there in P12. But we look at our leader as he comes out the pits, and it is still ATR's backs here who leads this race. But look at Nixo here. That gap with 2 laps to go has now come down to 7 seconds. Now Nixo is putting in some stellar laps. He's just at the fastest lap of the race on the hard tyre, of which it's a 3:21.988. But I think to try and take 6 seconds out of backs over 2 laps, whilst it's possible, I think he's really got to go some. And keep in mind, of course, Bax is now on fresh hard tyres, and once he's got them up to temperature come the end of this lap, that final lap, the tyres are going to be in their sweet spot. Meanwhile, Zicchikau has fallen away a little bit there. He lost half a second on that lap versus Nixo, but still in with a good chance here, being on the final step of the podium as he makes his way on out of Tetra Rouge corner. 3 seconds clear of Anzeng. Anzeng, by comparison, is not on the pace of Zicchikau, losing out what was 7/10 of a second on that previous lap as they make their way down the Mulsanne for the penultimate time. But as they charge down in this race, of course, it is the case that Seb just behind his teammate here. But GTB definitely exploited strategy here, plus also everything that's happened early on. But starting on the hard tyre has definitely worked out for the 2 Frenchmen of Anzeng and Seb 72. But the question is, of course, the more drivers who go to that hard strategy at the start, will it mean it opens up the void for the medium strategy? As we see here, Seb now going purple on this lap. And to be fair, he's got the freshest mediums of everybody here, given the fact he's going to have only 3 laps on these medium tyres to the checkered flag. So he can afford to go for it. And I think he also put some extra fuel in the car to really deliver these laps here. So for him, it is looking as though this could be a stellar way to end the race. But of course, when you've got a 17-second margin to the race leader and your teammate's 3.3 seconds up the road, I think the only ground he can really gain is potentially that P4 at the end. But we'll have to wait to see as Cody right now behind him, just gone to the hard tyre. It is the case the Frenchman here trying to hunt down Seb, but I think it's going to go the other way in terms of losing out. Then we've got a long way to SV Cyber for pre-resports here. We've just got to that hard tyre as well, but come out in P7 ahead of Magma, who's picked up another half-second penalty. Not a happy moment for the INCR driver, but going faster, but we'll have that half-second penalty, which will cause this not to be a fastest lap. As they make the way on around here, it is the case that Matthew 12 seconds clear of that red. And well, looking at further afield, it is the case that right now our leader here of ATR's backs, well, he is 4.3 seconds clear of Nixo, and that gap is actually coming down at a rate which could mean that Nixo is there right at the end on the final lap to go for the move for the lead. Now, if it's the case that Nixo's able to take 1.3 seconds out of backs before they hit the finishing line on this lap, so it is the case they'll be crossing that line to go on to that last lap. If that gap is 3 seconds, I'll put my money on that Nixo is going to be there on the final lap. It'll be through this sequence of corners that the move is potentially made, but of course it's the case that Bax here has that fresher hard tyre, and now it is up to temperature. He can start to push the tyre a bit more. Meanwhile, you can see Nixo's tyres there, whilst they are wearing down, they'll still be comfortable right now, but it will be the case that he'll be feeling as though they're not perfect, they're not quite in the sweet spot anymore. He can abuse them, but they will start to bite back. But he has taken a huge amount of time out of Bax there through the chicane. He's taken a whole second out of Bax through the chicane, if not more. And as he goes onto the final lap, Nixo is flying right now as they make the way into turns 1, 2 and 3. Well, there's a little bit of latency thrown in there as well, which I think may be upsetting the Apple car, but it is the case that right now Nixo have a 3:21.491 here versus what was Bax's lap. Well, it is the case. Well, it's just one of those situations whereby I think Nixo's going to be there once they get to our large corner, because there's no stopping this man right now as he goes hunted. He wants to make it 3 out of 3, and if he's going to do it on the hard tyre, so be it, because he is pushing right within track limits there as he makes his way out of Tetra Rouge corner. And Bax right now from ATR must be thinking, my goodness, this man is coming on strong. And you can see, look at how close they are as they make the way down the first part of the Mulsanne straight here. This gap between the two of them has condensed incredibly quickly as they head into the first chicane. And as they do, it's 2.6 seconds going into the corner. What will it be coming out of the corner? Of course, it does seem as though Nixo gains for these chicanes. That's where he is strong compared to everyone else. And he takes 4 attempts out to the race leader in one chicane. If he does that again, it'll be down to about 1.7 to 1.8 seconds, and it's all about hooking up the final set of corners to be in with that chance of a move. Further back we see Zig Chikawa here still ahead of Anzeng and holding on to that P3 quite comfortably, and then Anzeng behind, falling back towards his teammate gradually here of Seb, but no change between them at the moment. But Anzeng is on the threshold of those tyres are started to go. Cody P6, followed by Cyber P7, Magma P8 here as they make the way through, but no real battles emerging right now other than the battle for the lead, so we will stay with that to the finish if that's okay with you guys and girls tuning in at home, because right now it's going to go all the way to the wire as they make the way down towards what is at turn at number 15 here into Mulsanne. 1.8 seconds is the gap. It's now coming down to 1.5 seconds here. Nixo is taking temps out corner after corner as they make the way down towards Indianapolis. He's not close enough to be in the draft, and this is where you ideally need to be in the draft because it's such a long run to Indianapolis from Mulsanne. But as they make the way down now, all charging on through, it is the case here that Nixo is gritting his teeth. He's ready for this, but his back's ready. And that's the question. Can ATR stop the momentum of VRS in race number 3 as they make the way through Indianapolis? And Bax there, just a little bit uncomfortable with the car. That Nixo there, the tyres are starting to feel the pain. Look at the fuel as well. Nixo is on critical fuel. I think he's got enough to get to the end, but it's going to be so close. The gap's now 1.3 seconds. They make the way out towards the Porsche curves, and as they do, Zig Chikawa a penalty in the back of the picture briefly there. He'll still be in P3, we do believe, come the finish if it's a small penalty. But as they now come into the curves, Bax leads the pair of them on in. It's against 1.3 seconds going on in, but this is where Nixo may gain a little bit more Bax just needs to play it smart here. No silly business. Just keep it smart and safe. No mistakes affordable here as he makes his way out of the curves. He just about keeps it in track limits. You can see Nixo pushing. The gap's down to 1.2 seconds. I don't think there's enough time. Bax makes his way to the final 2 chicanes. Rolls his way on through here. He just needs to be smart with them as we see Nixo coming on strong. Bax can take his time here. Nixo's right behind. He's just got to hook up the exit. And as he does, the checker flag waves. An 80-yard take-a-win in the form of Bax led by 1.5 tenths. And our ERS Nixo on the checkered flag line. It's going to be 80-yard Zigchikau who makes it an 80-yard double podium in P3. And Zane will come home for P4 ahead of teammate for GTV 772. And it'll be Coding who's the best of the rest outside of the top 5 in P6 there. The Frenchman coming across the line for TGTF. And then we'll have INCR's Magba here coming to line after a difficult race in race number 3 here. And what will be P7, that 1 second penalty. But that's not going to cost him the position versus Cyber behind, who's 4 seconds back as he makes his way to the line there. But still one more race to go for the INCR driver. Cyber will be coming home in P8 for Premium Esports here as they come to the line and rolling on through. And then it will be ERS's Matthew who's next in P9. And for Matthew, it has not worked out for the ERS driver here. It's worked out for his teammate almost in terms of recovery to P2 after a difficult start. But I think a lot of question marks will be raised about exactly what happened at the start there. And they'll have to put those question marks aside and focus on the final race of this evening as Matthew comes that timeline P9. 11 seconds clear of EXP's Red 92 coming on through. And as he crosses the line very shortly to complete our top 10, we do still have some drivers who are quite a way back as we see Red 92 coming to the line, and it'll be GTB's Maverick 27, the Canadian driver here, just not having a day to remember at Le Mans, coming across the line P11, and then last but not least, 32 seconds back, it will be Tom Bifoy who had to make that second stop, of course, to repair the car, and as he charges on the round at this point, the EXP driver here, well, this race 3 has been perhaps the worst race he could have expected this evening. The fact it has just not worked out. Damage on all the stints minus this final stint, but with the amount of times he's had to visit the pits, you can imagine it's no wonder he might be thinking about race 4 already. As he makes way for the final 2 quarters, he completes the field here, spin his way across the line, in fact, get it wrong at the end and a whack to the wall, but as he points in the right direction now, he'll come across the line, P12, last but not least, as he comes on through to take his checker flag, but it will be 80 yards Bax who scores a win in race number 3. But a brilliant drive there from Bax, and that cannot undermine what has been a superb, dogged performance from the ATR driver in the fact that despite everything that happened at the start of the race, he had to still lead it and he had to manage it. And to be fair, ERS Nixo all the way pushing right to the very end and missing out of the win by 1.5 tenths. And Nixo just flying through the chicanes, literally taking so much more speed compared to Bax and everybody else. But it was the case that Nixo is not going to be given all of the wins tonight. He has lost 1 win, and well, he won't be too upset about that because it was a P2, but he was perhaps hoping that he could make it 3 out of 3. But as we do take a brief breather before we get ready to go racing one more time here, I think there may be a little bit of a look into what exactly is happening with the lobby, because we did have a bit of latency, hit the lobby quite hard at the start of race number 3. It was an absolutely brilliant one, and we'll be back very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, for what is race number 4. Don't go anywhere, we'll be back shortly, and you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the final race of this evening. But of course, before we can go racing, we do have to go qualifying. We have one more qualifying session, one more shootout, one out lap, one flying lap, and who's going to be on pole by the end of it. It is the case. We took a little bit longer than expected in coming back after race number 3 due to the connectivity issues that were experienced over the course of the distance. But a lot of our drivers have refreshed their internet and decided to come on back to get one last shot and see who can pick up the final winner this evening. Now, on paper, you would argue that it would be this man, ERS Nixo, who, after picking up 2 wins in races 1 and 2 and a second place in race number 3, despite extremely adverse circumstances in race number 3, he was able to jump through the field on the hard tyre and make his way in hot pursuit, but just missing out and hoping he had about 200 metres more racing room in order to get that win in race number 3. He is the firm favourite, but at the same time, given our race winner in race number 3 has now had a taste of that virtual champagne on the top step of the podium, you can imagine that ATR's backs may want to make it 2 out of 2 to even up the score. And as he makes his way on down here, it is the case we see in the YouTube chat, and we say hello there to El Loco TV, who's enjoyed the show as well. And I hope you're doing well, El Loco, and I do believe you've been very busy and furiously covering multiple grounds over the course, well, in fact multiple lobbies over the course of this weekend, dated all the way back of course to Friday, and I hope those have all gone well for you, El Loco, and everyone does appreciate the work you put in as well as part of the GT Fusion community. And we also say hello there in the Twitch chat, not to be forgotten about, of course, it's Ghosty YouTube there saying yes, my favourite commentator, and it's great to see you tune in, Ghosty. Appreciate the compliment, and I hope you're doing well. But as I try to make the way on down here on this final warm-up lap they'll be doing, it is the case and the many a driver here really now having to find a way to buy it back after what was a very difficult race number 3. And really, the one driver he would hope that is going to have some better fortune tonight is INCR's CBR Magma here as he makes his way through the Mulsanne corner. He's just had no luck in any of the races. Can it be the 4th time that's a charm? Normally you say it's 3rd time's a charm, but in this case for Magma it could be the 4th time, if any, as he makes his way around. And we also say hello there to Marcello Mastutuono, and it is the case there. I apologise if I butchered your name, Marcello, but I hope you're doing well in the YouTube chat. And well, it is the case, cheering on the Italian drives in particular there, and all saying that, well, it is the case. Use a lot of Italian. I must admit, my Italian is not too good myself, so I'm not going to try and read it out alternatively, try and respond to you in Italian, but I hope you're doing well, my good friend, as it is the case that Magma right now making his way around. But as I try to make the way towards the end of their warm-up laps, it will be the second of the ERS drivers in terms of points accrued tonight of SOE Matthew, who will be riding on board with for our final flying lap on board in tonight's session. As he makes his way on down the round here, it is the case him through those final 2 corners, and we ride on board here from the roll cage, just where the steering wheel is anchored in, as he makes his way all the way up in towards his flying lap. So charging it towards turn number 1 here, into the right-hander, completely flat out. It is the case here. We've got nice conditions now, however, quite a bit of headwind to be fair, which will affect our drivers. And as he rolls his way through turns 2 and 3 here, the one thing about that wind as well is it's going to be blind behind the drivers as they make their way down the Mulsanne Straight. So we're going to be seeing the high speeds recorded here today down that Mulsanne Straight as he makes his way through turns 6 and 7 up towards Tetra as he goes. And as he does here through the right-hander, looking to tuck it in nicely, cuts plenty of apex, 2 wheels on that exit curb, which means he is within track limits. But as he makes his way onto the straight now, then we're going to be seeing him heading in excess. I suspect with that wind blowing, we'll be seeing speeds in excess of 207 miles an hour as he makes his way up towards the first chicane. And that wind is blowing up to 212 so far. Would he go any faster here? 215, 216, and braking down for 270 miles an hour into the chicane here, and still nails that braking zone as if it's just another day in the business. And that's what you love to see as he now charges all the way down towards the 2nd chicane. Now, as he does, of course, here, completely planted once again. The hybrid kicking in as well, gradually deploying for the GR10 machine, making his way all the way down now. This Toyota machine, of course, a very dominant machine in hypercar races as it currently stands. Makes his way down into the braking zone here, all the way down to 2nd gear, and using that 2nd gear input into the chicane, particularly on the main apex there. Some drivers using 3rd gear all the way through, but in this case, the ERS drivers in particular utilising that 2nd gear. It does seem to work in terms of 1 lap pace. It means they do use a bit more tyre life and get the car rotated on through a bit more fuel, but when it's a qualifying lap, the only thing you've got to be concerned about is delivering a lap. And Matthew right now definitely building up to a brilliant one as he heads into the braking zone there for Mulsanne, and now making his way down towards Indianapolis. The difference here will be he's going to be driving gradually into more and more of a headwind where the wind's blowing towards him, so we may not be seeing our drivers head up to 207 miles an hour here, maybe just creeping to about 204. But as he heads on through here, that headwind now being felt as he's in 7th gear and starting to get ready. Well, he is going to still hit 204, 205, 206, 207, and in the end 209, with that wind not hitting him as hard as perhaps we thought it would. And as he rolls his way through, they're taking a lot of apex curb there, to be fair for Matthew, but just about keeps it on circuit, making his way down into Arnage, taking all the curb on the outside and really attacking the corner. And you can see how close he was to the exit wall, just missing the wall as well, as he now makes his way up towards the Porsche curves. But as he does now, most of the lap done, the most technical part coming up here, and this is what makes or breaks the lap as he heads into the curves, into the right-hander here, and using so much width on corner entry, but picking up some marbles there as he went into the corner, but just about bringing it, as we heard the wheels screeching on turning, rolling his way down to the right into left now of the Corvette curves here. And as he comes on through, hooking up well, 4th gear, 5th gear again, and as he makes his way now up towards the final 2 chicanes here, what we do know where his teammates gaining all the time is in the chicanes. Can Matthew use a similar approach as he comes roaring on through in 4th gear down to 3rd, line the car nicely now through the final 2 corners. He comes to the timeline, and what's it going to be for Matthew as he crosses the line to set our indicative lap? It's a 3:18.888. We are expecting fast times, given that wind, that tailwind down the Mulsanne straight. Seb will come to life for GTE here, but it's not in the ballpark, but he's on the hard tyre, to be fair. Codine on the medium will set 320, and then we have Tom Befoy here from EXP on the medium. He's going to be setting what is a 322, that's P3, but we can see immediately Nixo going faster, and that's a 317.698, and that will, I think, be pole position as the Maverick coming to the line there, P6 with a penalty. We've got Zigjical coming across the line very shortly on the hard tyre here, and that will be, I do believe, P8 so far, but we expect he's going to be demoted given there's some medium runners making the way on around. And Red 92 comes to line, P7 there, and then we'll see we've got what is a Magma jumping all the way up to P3 on that medium tyre. The INCR driver having a better qualifying session. This could work out. Bax has got P4 on the medium, and looking further on down, Seb on the hard. We can see Zigjical on the hard. We've also got Maverick on the medium. Cyber coming on through on the heavily wounded car, and Zheng is caught up behind. This is going to compromise Zheng's lap as they come to that timing line, and well, in the end, it is going to be Zheng who's P12, Cyber P9, but it has not been a qualifying session that many have enjoyed, and well, we are now about to form the grid for race number 4. And as we transition over to the grid then, it's ERS Nixo on pole with SOE Matthew from ERS P2, CBR Magma P3, joined by Bax in P4 there from ATR, behind the INCR driver. Then we have TF's driver, Codine P5, Top Performer from EXP in P6, and then we have GTV's Seb72 P7, Red 92 from EXP on P8, but we look back towards the front of the field as we're about to get underway one last time. And it's lights out and away we go for the final time today. And as we jump back out and jump back in to give you the external perspectives, it is the case here. We can see that Nixo gets us away up into turns 2 and 3 here. Now as they make the one through, we've got a bit more latency in the background there. We briefly saw that. That doesn't come to haunt a number of drivers, but I think everyone is safely through the opening quarters here as they make the way on down and around and in towards turns 4, 5 and 6. And as they come roaring on through here, is the case. All of our drivers absolutely going pedal to the metal right now, knowing this is the last time that we turn in laps at the Le Mans circuit in the GTfusiOn 2022 Team World Championship. As Nixo goes a little bit deep there. Is that a penalty already for the ERS driver here as he's pushing very hard to start this race? He wants to finish as he started, which is the guy out front. No penalty for him, just about within track limits, but we see Air already making the way through. No penalty so far, although Magma with some damage to the rear of the car, and where it's the case, the INCR driver just cannot get a break. Now, who's he had the contact with is the question. I think there was a bit of latency contact. That's what we saw, the brief lag spike earlier on. But the EXP top before P6, Seb said to P7 here, and on that hard tyre, as he makes his way out to the first chicane, you can see here, Red 92 trying to come through on the medium. He's going to try and get through nice and early here, and he needs to. And the simple reason, if he doesn't, then he's going to be stuck behind a hard runner here as they make the way out towards the chicane. Well, Red 92 is going to have the inside into the initial apex. I don't think it's going to be all said and done with the brakes. Although I say that Red 92 is up the inside and he gets it done into P7 there. Smooth sailing for him. Meanwhile, Top Boy all over the back of Codine here as they make the way up towards Mulsanne corner for the first time of asking. And as they do, it's the case Top Boy in the draft here as we ride on board with the Italian stallion, if you will, and as he prances and looks at the pace to make the place, it is the case up the inside there and right on the brakes there as he makes his way down to the corner, and he goes very deep into the corner as a result, and he overcooks it there, and as he rejoins his teammate, Red 92's compromised on corner exit, but Tom Boy going a bit too strong. Meanwhile, in the rear view picture, that is pre-resports is Simon getting it wrong as we on Maverick's got a 1 second penalty, and it's all starting to kick off, but look at this for Seb72 here. He's caught between a rock and a hard place. 2 of the XP drivers, one in front, one behind, and he finds himself on that hard tyre right now, trying just to navigate the proceedings as they make their way to Indianapolis. And to be fair for him, he just needs to cost everybody time. He doesn't need to fight, he just needs to be an inconvenience in order to gain overall as he makes his way down to Arnaud's corner. Top before he waits, he doesn't go for the move here. The Top before right now on that medium knows he's got the grip, and in fact he's going to try and go for the move on the exit of Arnaud before the Porsche curves in. I think this is going to be critical for the EXP driver for the simple reason, if he doesn't get it done now, he's going to really suffer through the Porsche curves in that dirty air off of the hard runner. And as they make the way in towards the curves, he's on the inside for P7. He's ahead already and seals the door shut, and he makes a critical pass. Behind there's GTfusiOn now on the hard tyre as well, and to be fair for GTfusiOn, I think it is the case that for him, he feels like he's just got the pace on the hard compared to the Frenchman in front of it, and the Polishman pushing right now for ATR as the GTE driver seems to be struggling a little bit there. And as they come out of the Corvette curves, they notice how Seb did not extend the corner exit, and that is a sign he's not comfortable carrying the speed. Now, is Seb trying to do 5 laps on the medium? No, he comes on through. We saw Seb on the previous race do 3 laps on the medium, 3 on the hard, but as they come out of the final quarters, they complete lap number 1 here, and into the pits comes Zheng, who has not picked up any damage, but it is the case that GTE driver is trying everything at this one. All his cards are on the table. He's doing 5 laps on the medium, and this will be interesting to see if he can make it work. But after 1 lap, it's ERS Nixo who leads by 2.5 seconds ahead of ERS teammate Matthew there in P2, and then have a 3-second gap to GTBL Bax, or the ATR driver in P3, who is 2 seconds clear of INCR's Magma there in P4. Magma recovering to P4 ahead of Coding there in P5. Then we have Red 92 from EXP in P6 there, giving a hot pursuit, followed by one EXP's Tom Bifoy there. After that move of Coding that went so wrong, it is the case he's now tried to recover, followed by 732 in P8 on the hard tyre as he picks up a half-second penalty to add to his woes. It's a 1-second penalty for ATR GTfusiOn there, as the GTB driver will feel a little bit safer now. Meanwhile, GTB Maverick in P10 now on the medium tyre with Pre-Resports in Cyber P11, and then Zheng has emerged from the pits 35 seconds behind the field now as a minimum, and looking to go hunting. But as they roll the way on through at this point, of course, all the strategies will start to be formulated here, and we'll have to wait and see who's made the right strategic call and who has not, as we make our way back up through the field little by little. And as we do here, it is the case that Red 92 right now trying to charge on after Coding, but it is the case that Coding in return gaining on Magba as they make the way into the second chicane. But as they roll the way on through the corners at this point, Magba almost loses the rear end, and in terms of the damage he's got on the rear already, I can imagine he may have some rear aero damage, and that means the rear of the car just does not want to settle on power. But the thing for Magba here is he'll want to push. He's had 3 races that haven't gone wrong, but surely in this one he's just got to calm it down a little bit, because that P4 is secure right now. He doesn't need to make mistakes, and look at this. It's the case the Frenchman here from TGTF of Coding 91 is under pressure from Red 92 here, and whilst their numbers may be in sequence in terms of 91 versus 92, they're not running as part of the same team, and they won't be running the same sequence in terms of strategies right now. And I think the EXP driver is definitely looking to make his way past the Frenchman shortly, because in that draft he'll gain, but he's doing some fuel saving as well. He knows he doesn't need to go for it into Indianapolis right now. His target, I think, will be to get a good run out of Arnage and make the move for P5 before they get to the Porsche curves here, because Red 92 right now is the man on a charge. So if Nixo, your leader, is breaking away from everybody, we expected that on paper, but right now Red 92 is on forward as he exits the corner here. We ride on board with the Italian driver, makes his way in the draft, looking for his cockpit camera here, and as they side by side making their way on up, we look to the side camera, and as he rolls his way on through, it's the case up the inside that you can see Coding in the rearview mirror, who ducks out behind, and it's the case that Red 92 is up another place here. He's pushing hard, and will this work out? I think it will. He could be going for a top 3 here. This would be the opportunity to end on a high as they roll the way on down and around, but as they do, we look from them back up to P3 driver Bax here, who right now running a smart race. He's not pushing too hard as the ATR driver. He's had a taste of victory already. He doesn't need to do it again necessarily. He just needs to be on that podium to end his night on a high. But as he rolls his way through the final chicane here at the end of the second lap, it is the case charging on through. The ARS drivers are leading 1-2. Nixo ahead of Matthew. They are respectively 3 and 6 seconds up the road from the P3 driver here. But Magma right now with a half-second penalty after getting it wrong at the chicanes. He's looking vulnerable here towards Red 92, and as they make the way in to the opening chicane of turns 2 and 3 here, I think Magma very shortly is going to be feeding the full brunt of the EXP driver behind as they make the way on down towards Tetra Rouge. Meanwhile, behind them, Coding still being caught here by the other EXP driver, Tom Bifoy. But it is the case, EXP are coming on very strong here in race number 4. This is the pace we saw for them in race number 1, but it was undermined in the opening race, and we haven't seen this pace until now from them. And given the fact we've actually got warmer conditions as well, and a huge huge tailwind down the Mulsanne straight here. I think EXP are just going for it. They're loving these conditions because right now it's the case that everybody else minus ERS just do not seem to be enjoying these conditions. As the Red 92, he's fallen back from Magma, but he does know, of course, that the INCR driver has got a penalty, and that's a 2.5 second penalty for track limits. Well, it's the case he had a half-second penalty from the chicane at the end lap of the 4 chicanes, and he's added to that with a 2-second penalty from what's Tech Rouge. And the INCR driver, we said he didn't need to push it hard, but he's pushed it too hard, and it has come back to bite him as he makes his way on down here. And I think for him right now, he's not going to be throwing his teddy out the pram, as we like to say it, but it is the case he may be feeling a lot of frustration behind the wheel. He's just got to dig deep here and know there's only a few more laps to go, and he's still got opportunities out there as he makes his way on through. But as he comes charging on out at this point, it is the case that we look a bit further back here, and with the battle for P6 raging on, well, the TGTF driver of Cocodine at this point, and see Tom Boy getting closer and closer. The gap's now 2.5 temps. I think the EXP driver's going to look for the move here, or is he going to wait for the run to Indianapolis? I think he's going to wait one more. But as they come into the braking, so you can see the EXP driver up the inside. He comes in like a missile, and he goes a bit deep. And Tom Boy there, I think, not reacting to the fact he had a huge overspeed. And as they make the way down towards what is Indianapolis, it's a side-by-side drag race now. Cocodine should, in theory, have this place sealed, given the fact they're on the inside. They've got about a 1 mile an hour advantage by the time they get to the end of this run, but Tom Boy's not going to give this up. He's made it very clear he wants that P6. They made the way to the braking zone here. Who's going to back out? Neither one does, but in the end, it is Tom Boy who has to lift out. Although as they make the way out of the corner, there's contact between the two of them, and now Cocodine's got some damage on the rear of the car, and Tom Boy's got damage on the front of the car. There's a tap, and they've both got aero damage as they make the way towards the end of this lap. They come out of our arch corner, but the point is, Tom Boy has not made his way through as Magma there from ICR has taken that 2.5 second penalty. They're going to go almost 3 wide here in the run up towards the Porsche cars. Cocodine on the outside here, Magma defends, but I don't think he's got enough speed here as they make the way on through, and Tom Boy comes through with him, and Magma loses 2 more places, but there's contact there, and Tom Boy goes to the gravel. Meanwhile, Magma carries on through. Tom Boy a whack to the wall, and that is engine damage. Now, was that actual contact? Was it latency contact? We don't know, but one thing's for certain, the XP driver here finds himself with engine damage once again, and well, it may not be an unfamiliar position, but it's definitely a frustrating one right now, because that is his battle for the top 5 surely done and dusted. Meanwhile, we see Seb here in P9 on that medium tyre right now. Ron is one out. Of course, he took his pit stop after 2 laps off of the hard tyre. He's got Zig Chikao behind who's got a similar strategy. We see An Zheng in the pits right now with the engine being repaired here, and Cyber as well. Both of them with major damage. And I think this may be a retirement for both drivers here, given how long they've been in the pit lane. It's the case they may not be able to get their cars back out. But meanwhile, Magma into the pits here with damage on both the front and the rear of the car. Tom before as well with damage all over the car. It is going very, very wrong for so many drivers here. But meanwhile, it is the case we look back up towards our leaders right now, and in particular it's the case that Red 92, he's just set a purple sector in sector 1. Well, the driver here from EXP is flying, and to be fair, Nixo's 09's 319.3 is a high benchmark to beat, but it is the case that Red 92 here is saying I can beat that as he makes his way down the Mulsanne straight for the 4th time of asking here in race number 4. But as they come charging on down here, it is the case that Bax, who leads in this battle for P3 by 1.4 seconds here. Red 92 could see that P3, it's ever closer, and he's trying to chomp at it. He's trying to get himself onto that podium here as they make the way out the corner, but the thing for him is he's got to worry about the fact that the amount he has pushed, he has put a lot of wear into those tyres, particularly those rear tyres. And I think he's going to be safe on this lap, but surely he is not going to attempt a 5th lap on these medium tyres. We've seen it can be done, but it requires a huge amount of tyre preservation. It requires you to drive a couple of seconds off of the optimum pace on the tyre. And meanwhile, Will Bax here won't be worrying about optimum pace. He'll be just hoping he can keep his rival at bay here as they make the way down towards Mulsanne corner, because you could see that Red 92 almost then within the toe, a second between the 2 of them as they make the way down towards the, not the hairpin, the right angled 90-degree corner of what is Mulsanne. As they make the way on in here, it is the case that Bax 1 second ahead, but they roll the way on out, and Bax definitely struggling for pace out of the corner. But as they head on through towards what is Indianapolis here, it's the case that Red 92, I think, now doing a little bit of fuel saving here back in the car car off, because he may recognise the fact that when they both go into the hard tyre, he's got the pace he will feel to make the move versus Bax. But to be fair, we have seen Bax is very strong in that hard tyre. Not as strong as Nixo, but it is the case. The ATR driver definitely feels comfortable on that tyre, so perhaps Red 92 can't potentially lift the pressure off too much here and needs to be patient. But as he rolls his way on out at this point, it is the case that ERS right now have got this race in control, although I see that Nixo is being closed up to a little bit by his teammate Matthew here. The gap between the two of them only 1.9 seconds as they make the way out towards the Porsche curves. But to be fair for Nixo at this point, I think he can afford to turn things down slightly given the pace he's got under his belt. But Matthew has saved a bit more fuel compared to his teammate, but he has really pushed the time. In fact, he's gone purple there as they make the way to the end of the Porsche curves into the Corvette curves. Will Matthew be set the fastest lap of the race here? If so, well then his teammate may have a little question mark in his head in terms of, is Matthew going to try and steal this off me right at the end? But to be fair, they'll have figured out the strategy. It's a team championship, not a driver's championship. And as they make the way into the pits, both of them on in to take their pit stop. Bax comes on through here. Surely he'll peel on as well. He does indeed. Red 92 follows him in. And then we do have Cocodine here with that damage on the rear of the car. Surely they've got to be in as well to put the hard tyre on. Making the way on in, and then we do have Maverick here. A solid stint for the Canadian, in fact, from GTE there. Bit of an unsung hero of this opening stint coming on into the pits. There we do have Seb 72 here, remembering of course that Seb has already taken that pit stop to go from the hard to the medium tyre with Zikchikau behind from ATR here. The GTE driver's got to be wary of the fact that right now it is the case that Zikchikau is really pushing onto his heels here as they roll the way on through. But as they come charging on around, it is the case here that Zikchikau looking as though he's not quite able to close up in this dirty air through the curves, but he will have that advantage, of course, on the straightaways in terms of the drafts. But we look from them to our leaders right now, as meanwhile out of the pits comes Nixo ahead of Matthew. And well, Nixo, they're gaining in the pits. Well, that is a bit of a reverse. We thought with Matthew having 4% more fuel that it would be Matthew's game, but Nixo has actually gained a whole second there. Maybe pit entry and pit exit, or particularly pit entry in fact. So our drivers are required to go through that chicane into the pits. But meanwhile, Bax here in P3, Red 92 in P4, and then we do have Cocodine in P5 here as he makes his way on out, and then Maverick P6, and this is critical for Maverick here as he makes his way on out. He's ahead of the charging pack, but you can see it's his teammate behind as Maverick goes a little bit deep there through turns 4 and 5, and that's going to release Seb, and it puts Maverick now in the hot seat to hold off Zikchikau, and Magma is behind all this. It's going to be a four-way battle for what is P6 there as a minimum, but can they all get close enough to go hunting after what is P5 driver TGTF's Cocodine there as they make the way onto the Balls straight with Zikchikau. He's got the momentum, he's got the draft, and he's going to capitalise early versus what is their Maverick, but has he gone too soon as they make the way down the straight here? And you can see as they roar on down. Now Maverick's going to look around the outside here, and the INCR driver's going to make it 3 wide in the battle for P7, and Magma goes all in, but it's latency in the end that takes it away from us. But Maverick made to go deep there. Well, it's the case, I think they were all thinking it was going to be 3 wide, but actually it was 2 wide. We were a little bit deceived by that, but it's the case that Maverick in the end gets it wrong, and now Magma is going to try and come past Zikchikau. As they make the way all the way down towards the second chicane here, we can see it is the case, roaring on down, and there was contact, there was latency contact with what was Maverick there from Magma, but as he comes today, he's going to look up the inside here versus what is Zikchikau and make a traditional move for P7, but do keep in mind, of course, the ATR driver will now have that potential run back in the run to Mulsanne corner, and also, if he doesn't get it done there, he can still have the run back up towards Indianapolis, but it's definitely turning the screw right now in terms of the battle for P7 here, and they're releasing 772 to go hunting after Cocody. You can see him there in the foreground of the picture. Magma going defensive, Zikchikau looking around the outside. Well, I think this is all to set up a cut back in the run to Indianapolis here as the ICR driver goes deep on that inside line. There's a bit of contact between the two of them, but both drivers there survive the contact just about as they make the way on down. And Zikchikau, of course, on that medium tyre versus the hard shod Magma as they roll their way down the straightaway here. And the thing for Magma is he hasn't got the grip in the corner, so he needs to be ahead before Indianapolis, because if he's not, he's going to lose out versus the medium runner as they head into the right hand. And now Magma's going to hook it round the outside, and my goodness, now that is brave from Magma, but he gets it back past. And now Zikchikau will be thinking that he's got to try and find a way on through so he can exploit the grip of the medium tyre at the Porsche curves. If he can't, then he's going to be stuck behind a medium runner through the whole sequence, and that is going to kill double his race time, as Seb and Codeine ahead are just running off into distance, and they'll be holding on to that P5, P6 battle respectively. But as they roll the way on through, here is the case, and Magma needs to go on the defensive, and meanwhile GTfusiOn needs to try and find a way through. But look at this as they come on through. This is what we're referring to, the fact in that dirty air through this sequence of corners. It's the case the ATR driver just cannot exploit the tyre. He's in a war dirty air, and it means every bit of apex speed is taken away from him as an advantage as they roll the way up towards the full chicanes. And as they roll the way on through here, we look further up the order, and in this case that Seb is closing on Codeine gradually. Meanwhile, we see Red 92 here all over the back as they go on to the final lap versus the ATR driver of Bax in the battle for P3. Now, Bax has been in this situation before. He's had a faster driver behind him, and he's dug deep, and that was, of course, in race number 3 versus Nixo. The race leaders, by the way, are 5 seconds and 8 seconds up the road, respectively. Nixo, your leader, by 3 seconds over Matthew. Not much happening between them, but in this battle for P3 as they make the way on out here, has Bax done enough coming out of Tetra Rouge to open the gap up? Well, he's not done enough to break the toe, but what it is he can see in this rearview mirror is that Red 92 does have a half-second penalty, which he'll serve at Arnage. So right now, if Bax falls behind, he won't feel this as much as he could potentially, as they make the way all the way down towards what is turn number 12, and as they roll the way into the braking zone here, push it on through, it is the case that Red 92 right now knows he's got to get ahead and try and make an early break here versus Bax. But the thing for Bax is I don't think he's going to play ball here, as both drivers trying to set personal best laps as well right now, and they roar on down the second part of Mulsanne. Meanwhile, Codeine here comfortably ahead of Step 72, who's fallen back a little bit to be fair. He's lost a second to Codeine in the battle for P5, and now he's having to defend for P6 versus INCR Magma, who right now is close, but he's got a half-second penalty against him. He's going to have to make the move and break away, and then hope that he's broken enough to hold it coming out of Arnage. But as they make the one down here, Magma's going to make that move now. And to be fair, I don't think Seb is going to react too much as they make the way towards that braking zone here. We've got a yellow flag up the road, however, and that's Red 92, who's had a spin. Now, we're not sure what's happened, and there's been no contact with Bax as far as we can see, but Red 92's had a spin at the second Mulsanne chicane, and that's going to drop him all the way back to Codeine, who's creeping closer, plus a half-second penalty. Codeine here could have a chance at P4. Meanwhile, Magma is ahead of 772. We had to cut away from that briefly, but remember, he's got that half-second penalty to deal with as they roll the way on through. And indeed, as I can see there, Igor Pieski in the YouTube chat saying Polish top 3. Indeed, it is a top 3 right now for Poland if they bring it home as it currently stands. But right now, we focus more on the battle for P4 and the battle for P6 here. It's all coming to a crescendo behind GTfusiOn's a bit further back in P8. He's not close enough to get into this fight. But meanwhile, Codeine here can see in front the Red 92 is on that half-second penalty. It will close the pair of them right up on the exit of Arnage. But the problem is Codeine's not close enough to capitalise here and just sail on through. He's going to have a brilliant exit out of Arnage corner to get this done. And as they roll the way on out, now we'll wait to see. The gap is 1 second. The penalty is taken by Red 92. Codeine's getting closer and closer and closer. Red 92 covers him off. However, Codeine switches back to the inside. That's a very late switch back, but reacts well. And as they make the way into the corner here, defending to the inside, I think he's going to be safe and said and done. 772's back up into P6 meanwhile. But as they come through, we must look to our race leader for as he makes his way through the final couple of corners. It's not been a perfect evening, but it's going to be 3 wins out of 4. And here he comes. Iris Nixo takes the win with teammate Iris Matthew to the line in formation. P1, P2 for the pair of them there. Brilliant stuff from the pair. And then it will be ATR's Bax who takes P3 on the podium there. Another solid drive from the Polish driver. It's a Polish lockout on the podium. And then Codeine here in P4 defends versus Red 92 for the final couple of corners. And the TGTF driver takes P4 at the line ahead of Red 92 from EXP. 772 takes P6 ahead of GTfusiOn with Magma being demoted to P8 for INCR with a post-race penalty. And then it will be P9 for GTB's Maverick 27 ahead of EXP's Tom Devoy in P10. And Zeng P11, SOE Cyber P12, but it is the case they're both in the pit lane and they have effectively retired from the race. But what a race number 4 it has been. But in the end, one driver has really stood out today, and that is ERS's Nixo09. Is the case. He has been absolutely unstoppable, but to be fair, he has had a brilliant teammate with him in the form of SOE Matthew, and the ERS team have done absolutely splendidly in Group B in round number 4 here of the 2022 Team World Championship of GT Fusion. It is the case that both drivers absolutely delivering, and well, we've got to give credit as well to AETR's backs here. Really, I would argue, perhaps not the best driver of them all today, but he has definitely been the driver who has dug deep all the way through. A win in race 3, a 3rd place in race number 4, 2 strong performances in races 1 and 2 as well. Nothing can be taken from him. And then Codine in the end bringing home that P4 at the finish here, just holding off Red 92. But credit to Red 92, he threw everything at this final race tonight. You could see that, and it just did not work out for the Italian in terms of that penalty cost him that P4 right at the end, and also that spin at the second Bolzan chicane cost him that P3, but he'll have his chin up high, and now there's still 2 more rounds in the championship to go, as meanwhile it's the case that Seb72, the GTVE driver who's had the best of the fortunes of the GTVE team today in Group B. They've not had the best of races across the board, but Seb has tried with strategy, he's tried with pace, and P6 in the end is where he's finished in this one, and Zigzikau what could have been in some of these races. But to be fair, we know with Zigzikau, he loves giving it a go. He loves experimenting with different strategies. Indeed, made a number of drivers consider switching to the hard for the start of the race in the end. But a P7 was the best he could get in this race number 4. But as we do continue to wait for our drivers who are in the pit lane to have their races considered classified and finished, and it's the case, this is the one driver who's just not had any luck today, and it's INCR's CBR Magma, who you can imagine that for him, he probably wants to just go to sleep and forget about this one. The Italian has just had no luck. And in race number 4, it was looking so good early on, running in P4, and then penalties and mistakes just came back to haunt him as our drivers make the way down in formation here. But Maverick, much like his GTV counterparts, it has not gone well for him. But here's your winner. With race number 4 of 4 complete, ladies and gentlemen, that does mean we conclude the racing here today at the Circuit de la Sarthe, or the Circuit de 24 Hours de Mons, in what is round number 4, and particularly Group B, or second split of the GT Fusion 2022 Team World Championship. But fantastic racing, and congratulations to all of our drivers, whether they've had a brilliant set of races or not. They've all participated and done the best they possibly can. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and if you did enjoy today's broadcast, if you've enjoyed seeing the racing and you want to know more about GT Fusion in terms of the championship, the community, or everything else in between, then you can of course check out our official website, that is www.gtfusion.org. Alternatively, if you're more of a Twitter person, you can always go to our official Twitter, which is twitter.com/GTfusionGT, or if you're more of a Facebook person, of course, where all the organisation administration goes in terms of the interaction between drivers and teams, it is the case our Facebook page is available at facebook.com/GTfusion.eu. Also, a huge thank you to our partners for this series, particularly Excite, of course, the ultimate driving experience, and you can go to their website at excite.be. But it is the case now, ladies and gentlemen, our drivers will be packing up their bags and gradually making their way in preparation for what is round number 5. And whilst the combination and our host venue has yet to be announced, keep the dates in mind. We'll have round number 5 occurring from Friday the 21st of October to Sunday the 23rd of October, and it will be the case that I'll be back in the commentary booth to bring you all of Group B, and we'll have all the commentary teams on standby as always to bring you full coverage over the course of the 3-day race weekend. And remember, on Friday it is the Mishmash lobby, those drivers who are not able to make it into the weekend lobbies, and also we do have our special guest racing. On Saturdays it's our Pro-Am divisions that are racing in the lobbies there, and on the Sundays it's our top 3 splits, our ultimate pros going toe-to-toe for the best possible prizes, and I'll be bringing Group B alongside my colleagues who will be bringing Groups A and C, the top splits there, and we look forward to it. But thank you very much for tuning in. We've been GT Fusion. I've been your host, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.